John, it's only been a year since we did this. We didn't do it last year, and that was 100% Jeff's fault. 100%. Because today, in lieu of your normal Rage Select podcast, we have an altered Rage Select podcast where you and I are going to talk about some of the best and some of the worst and some other games from 2018.
I'm down.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Get hyped.
I'm hyped.
Get psyched.
All right.
All right, good. Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Rage Select podcast. I'm Jeff.
I'm John.
John, how long has it been since you and I have sat here and done this? Just podcast. It's been a while, right? Between the break.
I don't think I've seen you since right after Christmas.
It was just
right
Dance,
before Christmas.
right?
Yeah, I
Since
think
we did the Just Dance video.
Yeah, I haven't seen you since then.
What have you been up to?
Doing my own podcast.
Yeah.
Going to the movies.
Yeah.
Playing video games.
Yeah.
All the things that I'd be doing if I wasn't here.
Okay, all right. So the usual. Yeah, okay.
The things that coming over here to record keep me from doing. No, I'm joking. I like coming over here to record.
Well, before we jump into it, though, I do briefly want to say that I have just been exhausted. I know I've been saying that in general, but I've been double exhausted for the last week and a half. And so last night I decided I needed just a not doing anything Jeff day. I literally just laid in bed and watched all of Future Man Season 2.
Oh, okay.
Which I have to say, I really like Future Man.
I keep wanting to watch it, but I keep not having time to watch it because
Yep.
I've got so many other things to get to, and I'm like, you know what?
Yeah.
I'm sure it's okay. I'm sure it's good, and it's one of those shows that's not bad. There's people who probably are like, I don't care for it, but
Right.
But no, I haven't heard anyone say anything outwardly negative about it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also probably not one of those shows that's so good I need to watch it right now.
Yes.
So I'm just like, I'll watch it later as other shows pile up on my to-watch list.
Yep. I mostly just started watching it, and then I was just like, I'm just gonna do this because it's 13 25-minute episodes, and I was just like, yeah, all right, let's do this. And I agree with you that I don't think it's the greatest show that's ever been created in the history of mankind. But what I do really like about it is the fact that every episode, the plot moves. It reminds me, it's like the anti-Netflix Marvel show, where, there's a Netflix Marvel show where 30% of the episodes of Netflix Marvel shows where just not a whole lot happens. There's some quote-unquote character development, but there's no real the story moving. It's mostly just, Matt is sad, or the Punisher is sad, or Jessica Jones is sad.
Well, they're all being canceled
off.
off left and right, so you don't have to worry about that.
Danny Rand is sad. Yeah, but I like it, and if you got Hulu, as always, I don't think any one of these shows is a reason to have the streaming service.
But if you have the service already,
and you want to watch a cute show, I don't know. I like Future Man. I think it's real breezy and easy and ready to go. And then one more thing before we jump in. Today we got a trailer. I'm sorry, I didn't even ask if you watched the John Wick 3 trailer.
Yeah, it's got Mark Dacascos in it as one of the villains.
Who's that?
You don't know who Mark Dacascos is. I always forget that I'm the only one who knows who that is. Do you ever watch the American version of Iron Chef?
No.
Okay. Do you remember the movie Only the Strong?
No.
How about the live-action Double Dragon movie?
Oh, barely.
He was the older brother.
Okay. And what is it? You say that it's a
He was also in the live action TV show of The Crow.
Okay.
He was Eric Draven in that.
Okay.
He was he's in a lot of stuff. Mark Dacascos is awesome. He's actually one of those actors who I have strangely followed his career unintentionally, and I love him.
Okay. Yeah, I see that I've seen him in things before.
Yeah.
Yep. No, that's
he's
Mark
he was in the what was it? Crying Freeman, the live action French film version of Crying Freeman.
Okay.
It was really good. He was in Mark of the Wolf, Brotherhood of the Wolf.
Oh yeah.
He was in the movie Drive, which is fucking awesome, and you should go watch that one. It's from it's not the Mark Gosling Drive, but there's an older movie with him and
Ryan Gosling.
Yeah, Ryan Gosling.
Mark Dacascos.
Ryan Gosling. Yeah, but Mark Dacascos, I think he's when they're with Kadeem Harrison and Brittany Murphy.
Okay,
it's fucking awesome movie. It's like Crank before Crank because it's all about the fact that he has a motorized heart.
So
it's fucking awesome. awesome.
I like how passionate you are about Mark Dacascos.
Yeah.
Of all the things we can talk about this John Wick 3 trailer, it's like
I'm just like I was hyped for this trailer. Like I was already like I'm on board, and I'm like, is that Mark Dacascos? It totally is.
Double hype.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like an awful lot more John Wick. And I know I was on the One of Us Gathering podcast.
Yeah, okay.
And they were talking about like being hyped, and some people had said that they liked John Wick 2 more than John Wick 1.
Okay.
And I kind of disagree with that. Like I think John Wick 1 is a very pure movie where it's got a beginning, a middle, and end, and a bunch of stuff throughout. I thought John Wick 2 was good, but if I'm going to go watch a John Wick movie, I'll watch the first one.
So I feel like if I wanted to watch 2, I have to watch 1 first.
As a back-to-back.
Like 2 is a good movie. Like I feel like it's a good movie on its own.
Yeah.
But it is made better by 1, and 1 is exceptionally good.
Yes.
So
exactly. Yes, I agree with you 100%.
2 is so if you're watching them like back to back as one large story, like I am totally, whenever this movie comes out in theater, like the couple days before, I'm going to watch the first movie, then the next day I'm going to watch the second movie,
okay,
and then I'm going to go see the third day I'm going to go see the third movie in theaters, because that's the way it's got to be done.
You guys heard John. Get your DVDs, man. Get your streaming services. It's yeah, that's the way it's got to be done. No, I'm excited and I watch it, but it's also one of those things where I watch it and I'm like, that looks like more John Wick. That looks like more of the John Wick that we've already seen. I mean, there's a horse. That's new.
Yeah.
I haven't seen a horse before. Yeah. I want to see if it slide that horse like sideways under like a semi truck or something like that. What can the horse do? Does the horse have a gun? Does the horse have a dog?
No.
Did the horse's dog get killed?
No.
And now John Wick and the horse are teaming up to have. See, now that's a movie right there.
Yeah.
John Wick and a horse.
Yeah. Well, that's 3 apparently.
Apparently, yeah. Or maybe that's just a Western. I don't know. And last but not least, before we jump in, I know I'm sorry I'm teasing here, but I don't say this an awful lot on the podcast. I usually just say it on the videos, and I usually say at the end of the videos. Man, our Patreon has taken a hit, and I'm not sure if it's because of there was some stuff with Patreon and somebody, and I'm not sure if it's people that are leaving because of that or because of whatever. But tax season's coming up, and this is the worst time to have Patreon jump down. So if you've never been a patron and you like these shows, it's I'm not asking for like big money here. Like $5 a month, that's cool with me. And we've got a shitload of bonus videos, including that time when I made John play every single Souls game.
Yeah.
That all of those Souls games are on there.
And there is one episode more recently where I sort of got to play a Souls game.
Dark Souls 1, yeah.
And Jeff went out of his way to make me die so he could take the controller from me.
Not only that, but we also played Dead Space, and we played Metal Gear, right?
Metal Gear, yeah. Metal Gear.
Yeah, John played all of Metal Gear.
Yeah.
While I sat there with my hands tied in front of me like a baby.
Screaming in pain and agony and like, what are you doing?
Like a hands tied.
Play the game right.
Baby, yes. So yeah, if you've never been a patron of Rage Select before, man, it's a good time. I hope that you at least think about it. But from there, finally, let's do the thing. Let's now a few things before we get started. I'm going to say right now that 2018 was a real bear of a year for me. I was really busy. I didn't get as much time as I wanted to play as many games as I wanted to. So this list is mostly comprised of. Well, I've got 3 lists. You've got 1 list.
Yeah, I didn't know I had to have more than 1 list.
No, that's all right. We didn't coordinate ahead of time. It was just so I would say right now, I didn't play everything that came out. I didn't even get a chance to play every AAA game that came out. There were some games that I probably would have wanted more time, but my whole thing last year was like, if it's a short game and I'm into it, I'll play it. If it's a long game and I'm into it, I'll play it. Otherwise, like if I wasn't into it, I kind of had to just stop due to time restrictions. So this is not an evaluation of every single game that came out in 2018 because I would have been dead. I would have died, or at least I would have had like 0 sleep. Like I never would have been able to sleep. It would have just been nothing but playing games when I should have been asleep. So I have 3 lists here, and my lists are my favorite games of 2018, biggest disappointments of 2018, which I'd like to very specifically say is not the worst games of 2018 because I mean, come on. Like, Steam is so full of trash right now. Sword Fortress of Osmonium on the PlayStation is a worse game than anything that's on that list. But there were a bunch.
I don't even know what that is.
Did you watch the video of Amanda and I played about that like Samael Dragon? Okay, there's some guy named oh god, I've forgotten his name. There's some guy that is making these one-man games that are terrible and putting them out on the PlayStation Network.
Okay.
And somehow they get put on the PlayStation Network and cost like $30. And they're like this close to broken and unplayable games. And I don't know how they keep getting on there. But like
and you keep buying them.
I like to tell the people, it's like I'm doing a public service here. I'm just saying, hey, don't be taken in by these screenshots, y'all, even though he can't even really do high-res screenshots.
Just saying, because you're technically giving him money.
I am giving him money. But he's giving me something better, the gift of the shittiest games I've ever played.
All right.
But in any case, the biggest disappointments list, because there's going to be some stuff on there that I think that some people might even consider some of the best games they played this year. And so the disappointments list is basically just like things that I wanted to be good or things that I thought might be good. And then when I played them, they were like...
not as good as you expected.
Right. Like Battlefront 2 last year might have ended up on a list like that, mostly because, like, I think at the end of the day that Battlefront 2 is kind of like, after they pulled out all the microtransactions, it's kind of just a meh Star Wars game that you can play online. But it's still a functional video game. Like, there are plenty of non-functional or, like, so bad they're broken games. And to do that, it would mean that my bottom 10 list of the year would just be, like, Steam garbage, and then I have a third category, which is basically games that I didn't get to full-on finish that I think are really good, that what I played of are really good, and / games that came out in 2017 that I finished in 2018, and most of the game and all of the ones that are on that list are games that got either like a console release or like they were released on another console like the Switch or the Xbox One. I mean, like a PS4 exclusive game that was then released in 2018 on the Xbox One. Games that I would have probably put on my favorites of 2017 list, except for the fact that I didn't get a chance to play them until 2018.
I got that.
So
I'm sure I have opinions on those things when you talk about them.
Yes. So you've got 5 games, John.
5 games from my personal best of, 2 of which, if anyone listens to my podcast, they would already know the answer to my top 2.
Okay. What's that podcast called?
It's Geek Bombast.
There you go.
Yeah,
Where can people find that on the internet?
They can find it on iTunes, Stitcher,
Spotify,
YouTube, iHeartRadio, I think.
Wow.
Wait. No, not yet, but soon. I didn't finish filling that out. That form out. I just remembered I only half finished filling out that form, but I can get it on iHeartRadio. And YouTube, which if you go to bit.ly/Geek Bombast, that takes you directly to the YouTube page. Hoping to have a website before the end of the month.
There you go. Not to be a shill or anything, but like I made the new Rage Select website on Wix. And I really liked it. And there was actually earlier this year, I was like, maybe I should go check out Squarespace. And I looked at Squarespace and I was like, I cannot do what I've done on this Wix website on Squarespace. Like, so I like Wix quite a bit, and it's easy enough that I'm able to at least control my own destiny. And in fact, I'm hoping one of the things that was always kind of stood in the way of us doing any like T-shirts or stuff was the fact that I really didn't know how our store worked. But because I've built all this junk from the ground up and every one of these websites has it, we may be doing another T-shirt soon. So look out for that on the horizon. All right. Well, let me go through these biggest top 10 disappointments.
Okay.
From the bottom up, and then we'll go through our best ofs, and then I'll do that other category of
which is more just an honorable mention.
Well, a lot of them came out in 2018. It's just that like I didn't finish them. And
I know.
I always feel bad about recommending a game if
That's why I say it's an honorable mention because you can't really put it on your best of because it's not.
I gotcha.
Yeah,
I gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. So, top 10 biggest disappointments of 2018 for Jeff from Rage Select. Number 10 is, you got to imagine that you're on YouTube. Number 10. And maybe there's like a little jingle in the background. Sea of Thieves.
Okay.
Never
played it.
I was so excited for the idea of Sea of Thieves because, I like pirates.
Yeah, who doesn't?
I like
people adore Johnny Depp.
I like pirates more then I probably should. Like, I am a fan of that whole thing of Yar and a bottle of rum and skull and crossbones, the Jolly Roger, walk the plank, me hearties. And not because of the fucking Caribbean pirate. I like all pirates. I like Cutthroat Island.
You like that weird porn that's just called Pirates?
Yep. Pirates, Triple X.
Which strangely is actually a decent movie.
Adventure.
On top of being a porn.
Yep. I mean, Sid Meier's Pirates.
Yeah, Sid Meier's Pirates.
The original Pirates of the Caribbean video game.
Assassin's Creed 4.
Assassin's Creed 4, Black Flag. I like pirates. And so the idea of like, oh my God, it's a first-person pirate game. It's being made by an established studio, and you and your friends are going to get together and do stuff. What? That's great, except that's the only the only thing you could do is to get together with your friends and do stuff. Like, playing that game solo I was never able to find anything fun with it, and even playing it online, like, there just wasn't. The problem was there were no stakes, right? So the gold that you got, you used to buy cosmetic items that didn't change the gameplay, and so it's like, well, who fucking cares if I finish this quest or if I get my gold all jacked by pirates? I mean, like, it doesn't by another group of people on the server. Like, it just had that thing, and it's very possible that this just wasn't for me, but all the early stuff that I saw got me really, really excited. And when it finally came out, it was just like, yay, it's the day. And then it was like, oh no, it's just one of those online only games where you're expected to make your own fun.
Yeah, I that's kind of a trend in 2018 that I would say I was highly disappointed about.
Yeah.
Which is games that were like, hey, here's a game. There's no story. You have to find it yourself.
Right.
Have fun.
Make your own story, bro. And it's like, no, I don't want to. I paid you to make a story for me.
Yeah.
I would rather not have a story, or I would rather have you make the story for me. So anyway, like I said, that should tell people that, and I'm sure that I also want to make quintuple emphasize that was my experience when Sea of Thieves came out. I know there's been a lot of work done it since.
There's been updates, yeah.
I haven't gone back to it. It may be better now, but first impressions mean a lot. And when I was playing it, it was just like, also for a game that had a lot of online, the launch was really rocky, and it was just kind of difficult. So there you go. Number 9 may actually number 9 may actually surprise a lot of people, because number 9 is the console enhanced version. It's the Kerbal Space Program Enhanced Edition that came out in 2018 on consoles.
Oh.
Now, I fucking love Kerbal Space Program, but it is goddamn unplayable on consoles. Like, between the number of different modifier buttons and a virtual mouse and all that stuff. And so in 2018, they announced that they were putting out like an update to Kerbal Space Program on consoles that would basically like refine the controls so that it would be easier to play. And it was somewhat easier, but it was still just kind of like intolerable. Like, it was too complicated to really translate. And the fact that, like, you would kind of, the thing when you have like a 3D thing in a game and you're just like moving the analog stick and there's like a glow around what piece you're messing with. And they had that, but then they also had a modifier that would go back to the mouse, because it's still like, it really needed to kind of be overhauled from the ground up. And it really went to show how a really complicated game, like, that's a game I feel like you need a keyboard for.
Okay.
Or that they needed to go back and rethink the entire game from the ground up as a way, because I'd love to be able to sit on the couch and go to the moon, without having to have my keyboard in front of me, but it just didn't happen. And I got really excited for it because I really want everybody to be able to experience the majesty of Kerbal Space Program, and this update just didn't do that. Like, it didn't.
I can understand.
Bring that gameplay
Why that's
forward.
a disappointment.
All right. Number 8 is Far Cry 5, which is low on this list and maybe should be even lower. But
yeah,
the thing is that after I beat Far Cry 5, I went back and played Far Cry 4 again, and I was like, oh, this is such a better game than Far Cry 5. Like, between the moral questions that you're asked throughout the game, Pagan Min is a better protagonist, and like the gameplay, the fact that they took the radar out meant that stealth was a lot harder. It was very much difficult. Like, by all means, Far Cry 5 is not a bad game. I played it all the way to the end.
Yeah.
But and then let's not the end. I don't like the end of Far Cry 5. Like,
even if it sets up.
Even if it sets up, whatever they're going to next. It felt like it came out of nowhere, and it felt like it was thrown in my face. And as much as like there was fun to be had in Far Cry 5, I don't know. It didn't feel as good. Like I still think that Far Cry 4 isn't a way better game than Far Cry 5.
Okay. So I will actually disagree with you on this.
Okay.
I don't think Far Cry 5 is a great game. But I wasn't like disappointed. I kind of got what I wanted out of it. And actually, recently I saw a YouTube video, and I can't remember the name of the person who did it.
Sure.
But it was him comparing Far Cry 5 to Far Cry 2.
Okay.
And the reason, and he's very clear in the reasoning, is because there's a lot of and basically what he came down to is the problem with Far Cry 5 is that it's not designed to be a story that is. Or it's not designed to be a game where you have limitations put on you, and it's specifically wish fulfillment fantasy.
Okay.
And also because they try so hard to not offend certain groups that were apparently going to be offended based on the trailers.
Yeah.
That they ended up just it being pleasing no one.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where it's a really good video, and I, like I said, I highly would recommend finding it.
Do you remember what it's called?
It's like Far Cry 5 versus 2 or something like that. Far Cry 5 versus Far Cry 2.
Okay.
But
let's see if I can find it.
But yeah, no, I definitely
Far Cry 5 details versus Far Cry 5 versus Far Cry 2 versus Far Cry 5 direct comparison?
I don't think it was any of those.
Okay.
But like I said, I can't remember the video of it. I can't remember who did it, but it was like a kind of an essay kind of thing.
Right.
And like I said, I thought it was really interesting, and he kind of did explain a lot of what my issues with Far Cry 5 were.
Yeah.
In that comparison, and he even said, he goes, "Look, it's nothing wrong with this game, but if you look at it from this," he goes, "I didn't want to compare it to 3 or 4 because while 3 or 4 are definitely influenced in 5, this is not the same game as those."
Okay.
In a lot of ways. And he kind of goes on to he goes, the better comparison is 2, and explains why. Because in 2, the environments are completely destructible, and there's like no real place you can hide. Yet in this game, you can literally hide behind a fence with a plastic tarp over it, and it'll protect you from bullets.
Right.
And go, and he just kind of goes into like weapon degradation versus guns that never degrade, and
sure.
He goes into the fire system that was introduced in 2, and how fire is not really a thing in any of the Far Cries after 2. And also
that weapon in 3, or is that one in 3 where you got to burn the weed fields?
Yeah.
And then you get super high.
Yeah, and then
Skrillex plays.
I definitely can see why that would be a disappointment.
Yeah.
I disagree in that I don't think it's as huge. I probably, if I would put it on a list, it would probably be around 10 if I had to put it on a list, or maybe even 11, like right after that top 10. But I do totally get it, because I played it, I beat it, I enjoyed it, and I kind of saw what they were doing. I didn't necessarily like the message they were sending with the ending, but I got it.
Yeah.
And I don't feel that it wasn't telegraphed, because I actually called that something like that was going to happen.
Yeah.
In the game, because I paid attention to certain things that were going on that that could have been totally easily missed.
Oh, I missed them.
Yeah, because there's when you're going through one of the missile silos, one of the camps or whatever.
Yeah,
and there's a radio thing saying how there's nuclear weapons missing from one of the. There's a thing on like the announced thing saying, in launch bay 6 is missing. Please load armaments or whatever. And I was like, there's a nuclear weapon missing. Oh shit, are they gonna like, is that something I'm gonna have to stop later? And then the ending happens. I'm like, oh, that's where that happened. Okay,
I guess me, I'm sorry, finish.
My point is, because I don't want to go into the discussion about like all these things again, but I'm just saying, like, I totally understand it. The funny thing is, like, I bought it and the season pass because I was kind of, I don't know, strangely hyped. Like, I've never been hyped for a Far Cry game.
Yeah.
Because I just generally don't like them.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, this game somehow got me hyped. And I played it, and I was like, it wasn't as great as I was kind of hoping it was, but it was all right. It wasn't bad. And then I never played into the DLC that I paid for.
I did.
Which I've heard all the DLC's bad. But it was just one of those things that I was just like, oh, new DLC before it came out. I don't really want to play it.
Yeah.
So I totally understand why I'd be on it, because even though I played it and didn't have the same experience that you had, I have no desire to go back and play that game after I beat it.
I mean, while I was playing it, it was okay. It was just the more I thought about it. I mean, not even just the ending. Like, I want to make it absolutely clear, this is not just the ending. Like, again, I think that taking the radar out was a horrible decision, because it means that you can't sneak as well. In any case, I don't want to go into all the problems I had. Basically, it's just like, I didn't think that the story was good. I thought the story didn't make a lot of sense, and I thought the gameplay was somewhat repetitive. And at the end of the day, like, the more I thought about it, the more I was like, I think that Far Cry 4 is legitimately a great game. And I thought that Far Cry 5 was like, it was okay. And that's why it's a disappointment, is because 3 and 4 Far Cry I thought were very good, and they kind of set me an expectation that Primal knocked down a little bit, and then, when we went to 5, it just didn't.
Yeah, I also agree that, I also feel like the weakest parts of this game are where they try to ape moments of Far Cry 4.
Yeah.
Which essentially is the very beginning of the game, where you can just end the game by not getting up.
Right.
And this one has you can end the game at the beginning, but even then, that doesn't make, like, the message of all 3 endings is weird. A bad message.
It's just weird.
Like, I agree that it is a total, there are no good endings in this game.
Yeah.
And I feel like their message that they were trying to do, because they didn't want to offend anyone, ended up being a bad message. And I feel like that, if you're going to complain about the game, that's actually probably the biggest thing I would complain about, is that they really muddled their message to the point that they advertised it to one group of people and then told those group of people, hey, everything you thought is wrong.
I don't know. It's just strange. To me, like, again, it doesn't, if you like it, great. I just didn't.
Yeah. I get that. I get that. I get that. Yeah.
I have no interest in playing it in. Number 7, we got to speed up a little bit. Number 7 is, again, one of these that I'm sure a lot of people are going to, like, heinously disagree with me about. By the way, maybe you should skip forward to when we say about stuff that we like. Maybe we should have done that first, because I feel like someone's going to turn off this podcast and be like, fuck you guys. Was Darksiders 3, which, boy, I just didn't like. You know what? I've gone over it backwards and forwards. I don't like the story. I don't like the combat. I don't like the way that they laid the world out. I thought it was repetitive and a slog. And I've said a lot of what I thought before. A lot of people disagree with me and had a lot of fun with it. That's fine. I feel like if you're like one of those people that's really, really good at hard video games, maybe the difficulty was just fine for you and you didn't have a problem with it. I had a problem with it. And more than that, though, I had a real problem with the story. Like, it didn't do a lot for me. It left me with so many questions. I thought that Fury's character was entirely, like, one-dimensional, which would be fine, because it's not, I mean, there have been one-dimensional characters in the game, but I feel like in the last quarter of the game, suddenly her character just, like, turns on a dime and starts acting weird, acting this other way where it's like, where did this come from? It's almost like if you had a 3-act story with character progression and then you just took out Act 2, where it's like Act 1, and now they're a better person. And it's like, when the fuck did that happen? Like, why did that happen? In any case, I did not enjoy that at all. Now, I have not gone back and played it since the classic update that added back in the difficulty or whatever. But like, for a franchise that always surprised me as being a lot better than it had any right to be, this one, in my opinion, was what I thought Darksiders was going to be when I originally played it, which was just kind of a generic slog that I didn't really care about.
I will say this. I haven't played this. Yeah. I have not touched Darksiders 3, so I have no opinion on it. But everyone I know that talks about it, that likes it, has said, I like the game. However, if it had been released 2 years ago, everyone would be raving about how great this game is. But the fact that it's released now and we've gotten so many games that have already done everything that game does and has done it so much better, it's a mediocre game. But I like it. Like, that's what I hear people saying. And then I looked at every person that's told me this, I was like, yeah, but isn't that true for all 3 Darksiders games? Like, the first one came out and it's like, oh, it was surprisingly good. But if this had been released like a year or 2 years ago, this would be like, everyone would be raving about this game. And now it's just kind of seen as like, oh, it's better than it has any right to be. The second one came out, kind of the same thing. Yeah. The third, and so I just find that funny. Like, I think
the thing is that the third one, to me, if I was to see a trailer for any one of the Darksiders games and judge it based on all the video game trailers I've seen, I'd be like, oh, that looks forgettable. That looks like it's trading on a just kind of like fucking but like, oh, it's surprisingly deep. It's interesting. It's got all these different things that I never thought of before. And then the third one, it's like when I played it, I was like, no, this is just as shallow as it was, as the trailer made it out to be, right?
Oh, okay.
And that was what it was for me. A lot of people, like I said, I feel like love the franchise so much that I think that they're willing to cut it slack.
Okay.
I am not willing to cut it slack, because with every good game that came out of that franchise, my expectations were raised higher, that your next game needs to be even better than the last one, or at least doing enough interesting things that it sets itself apart from the last one.
I get that.
So number two. Number two. Number six. We're going to go a little bit faster. Was Borderlands 2 VR, which I played only very briefly, but it seems like they made next to zero. Borderlands 2 VR, in my opinion, should be a slam dunk, no brainer. But like, wow, it was just not very fun. Like, first off, the fact that the game turns on this weird, like your vision is dimming and you're going towards the light when you're moving to try to like lower your motion sickness is like, oh God, no. Not to mention the fact that when you start the game, you can't skip the opening cutscene. All right, Darksiders. Borderlands 2 is an old game. I've seen that train sequence 100 times. Let me fucking hit a button. In fact, there should have been a whole way for you to like skip that whole opening thing where fucking Claptrap finds you and you got to go and the bullymogs and they grab his eyeball. But even once we got past all that stuff, it just didn't feel very good. Like it felt like a real rush job. And again, it felt like the sort of thing where I just didn't want to play the game that way. Like, I'd almost rather just play Borderlands 2 with a controller and then look around in VR, right? Like, just move and fire and aim with the controller and then have the ability to just look around the environment. But, you know, Borderlands 2's been out for a while, and I think...
there's already Borderlands, whatever that
the
second
pre-sequel.
one. Yeah, the pre-sequel. So it's just like, there was an entire game that got released that's already more than a few years old.
Right. And in my opinion, I mean, like, I know I like Borderlands 2, but every time I go back to play Borderlands 2, I'm like, oh, right, it's like 4 hours before you get to like the city. Like, you've got to do all this shit in the ice. And not to mention the fact that, as near as I can tell, the what was that dumb bullshit girlfriend mode character? Like the two DLC characters, it was like the Techromancer or something like that.
Yeah.
Like the I'm pretty sure that and then the Psycho character both weren't in the game. Like, that you only had the four main characters that you get from generic Borderlands 2. I mean, I don't know. The whole thing was just such a letdown because I was like, hey, Borderlands in VR. That's a no-brainer, right? Like, you've got this full game. You're going to go back and you're going to work it a little bit so that it plays well, but they didn't seem to work it so that it played very well. Right. So... like when you open up, you know how when you open up the options menu in Borderlands 2, how it's like your character portrait is like right in the middle and then you've got all the stuff on one side. Well, in VR, all it's doing is like putting this big character portrait right up in your face, and then I don't know. It did not work for me. It was nausea inducing in a way that most VR games are not. And at its core, it just like, I don't know. I thought I wanted to play it, and then when I started playing it, I was like, no, I don't want to play this game anymore.
Okay.
Number 5 is Agony.
This list is Agony,
which is a game that, like, all the trailers for it. I don't know. I've been watching Agony's development for years, John, and like it seemed like, oh man, they're going to be making this really like edgy. You're in hell, and it's got all this weird, all the very kind of meat walls with titties and spikes all over them and like the blood and and it was the first time also that I had Tony on this channel, and it was like, oh my god, this game is awful. Like, it's just
turns
not
out
fun.
You can't improve on the formula that Dante's Inferno started.
That's true.
That was the peak of that formula of that style of game.
Yeah, and I hear that later on they finally release that patch to like patch in all the hardcore nudity and stuff. I
have no idea.
I don't know. All I know is that the actual gameplay of it was another one of these bullshit horror games where you got to just like run away and hide from stuff. And god damn, was it not fun. And I think that in a lot of ways, it was just because I've been watching the development of this game for so long and it looked interesting. I never got very far in it. It's possible that if you go further, it may actually get better, but I couldn't be bothered. I'm going to die someday. I'm not going to spend my time playing Agony. Yeah. Someday I'm going to die and go to real hell. And when I get there, I don't want the devil to be like, what do you think about the 20 hours that you played Agony? And I'm like, I'm sorry, Satan.
He goes, well, good news. Now you can play it for eternity.
We have made infinity sequels to the game Agony, and your job is to review them for a website that doesn't pay you very much money. I'm like, no. It'd probably be like spikes in my balls, right? Every time anybody talks about hell, they're always just like, oh man, that would suck if I had to like just eat mint ice cream for all eternity. And it's like, shut up. It's gonna be like those Mortal Kombat 11 fatalities that we're gonna talk about later, where they're just ripping your face right off. Number 4 is Extinction. This was the game that was being made by, like when Iron Galaxy got bought by, they went off and they made their own thing, and it was like giants, like big giants.
Yeah, you cut off
their
legs,
legs, and then they would fall down, and
then the limbs could grow back if you didn't do it quick enough.
Yeah,
I remember.
Oh, it's boring as fuck. It's boring as ever loving shit. How do you make a game that's about cutting? Well, I'll tell you how, is that the levels are like procedurally generated and the story doesn't make any sense. And you just kind of do the exact same thing over and over and over and over and over and over again. Like, let's all just take a moment to realize that, Shadow of the Colossus, where you're a tiny person beating up these giant things, every one of them is different. And it's like a puzzle trying to figure out how to destroy all of the what are they called? Titans?
The Colossi?
Colossi, yeah. God damn.
Hence
brain.
the Shadow of the Colossus.
I know, my brain was just like, it's the name of the game, and I was like, sorry, Brad, I can't listen. My mouth is running. Wow.
I know that feeling.
And not only was it like full priced, but it had a season pass as well that ended up being like all these different clans of ogres that you can fight. And it was like, oh God. What a fucking horrible piece of garbage. And for me, it's more disappointing than anything because, like, holy shit. I mean, what? This isn't a concept that's especially difficult. Like, just put some effort into it, you fucking lazy jackals. Like, there's 4 enemies in the game. There's like 2 on the ground and then the big ogres or something like that. And all you're doing is rescuing people. And it's, I mean, John never played it. He's just like, what do you want me to say?
I don't know what to say other than I watched you play it for a little bit.
Boring as fuck.
Looked boring, yeah.
Yeah, boring as fuck. Number 3 is Metal Gear Survive. Because you guys know why. I mean, like, holy shit, Konami. You know what? Anybody that wants to put out a game where, like, there's a whole survival component to it where you gotta, like, eat and drink and all that shit, unless it's done really well. Like, Amanda and I played Subnautica for our Patreon video, and that was really fun, right?
Yeah.
Because it was like a cool take on the survival genre because you were going underwater and there were all these crazy mutant fish. But, like, they could have made... I look at, what's that game... Is it called like Left Behind or something like that? The one that's being made by the Front Mission in the Front Mission universe looks like Metal Gear, and I'm like, wow, that looks fun. And one of the biggest problems that I have with this particular game is not even necessarily. I mean, like, obviously, I like Hideo Kojima, and I would like him to do his own thing, but the Metal Gear Solid 5 Fox engine was such a fun engine to do things in. And they picked, like, the most boring thing to do with it. Like, it was an engine that had this big open world where you could, like, all the AI was tweaked to the point where you could set up ambushes and, like, assault bases and do stuff like this. And then what they had you do was stand in a box and shoot the Zambinos that were just coming.
Just tower defense.
Yeah. And it's boring. It's really boring. And like, to take one of my favorite, I mean, I'm not even talking about Kojima or any of this bullshit. I could go into all that, but I don't want to. But like, the fact that they took an engine that was fun on its own and then just turned it into this slog. Boo. Number 2 is The Quiet Man. Because I mean, I was mildly intrigued by The Quiet Man when I saw the first trailer for it. I don't know how you fuck it up this bad. I don't know how you fuck it up this bad. I don't know how you spend time and effort and money recording a live action movie and then turn off the sound for it, even though there's dialogue, like even though there's actual voice dialogue. I don't know how you put out a game that is incomprehensible and then tell the people who bought it that next week you're going to patch in. If you beat the game, you're going to patch in the ability for you to actually see it with sound. Like, you've got to play a bad game once and then play it a second time to understand what in the fucking fuck is going on.
I get it. I get what they were trying to do. Like, I get it because they want you to be the character from the game who is deaf.
Right.
He can't hear anything.
Right.
So they wanted you to experience that character story.
Right.
And then they realized, well, there is a story. We've recorded dialogue. We recorded all this. What if we make everyone play it the way the main character would experience it?
Right.
And then if they beat it, then they can play it again with all of the dialogue and everything so that they can see what's actually happening. And they could see if the story that they thought was actually going on is actually what was happening, or if something different was going on and maybe they misunderstood. Like, I get I get the idea behind it. And they're thinking, and if people play through it twice and they really enjoy it, then they'll feel like they got their money's worth because this game's not very long.
Right.
So we're doing this cool thing, and we're showing people what it's like to be deaf in a world, and so that they can see it. You know, like, I get where the marketing and the network executives or the people making the game would have thought this was all a good idea. Mm-hmm. Like, I can comprehend it because I'm saying it.
Right.
But yeah, no, it's not. But
so here's the problem that I have is that people communicate with the main character. Okay, so if he can read people's lips, then
there should be subtitles.
There should be subtitles
for those characters that you can read the lips on.
Or if they want to do sign language, there should be subtitles. Or even like, you know, in fucking Man on Fire or John Wick or Max Payne 3, how they integrated into it's all stylish, right? Like when people do that. Okay, that's great. The problem is you can't just have a scene where somebody is talking to another character and then just turn off the sound. Like, there is a way to communicate flashes of what the story should be by considering during your production what the game is going to be like. But to me, I think that they made the voiced version, and then, like you said, somebody decided, what if we just turned off all of the sound? And the answer is, it would make no sense. It would make no sense.
I think what they if they had thought, if this, I'm pretty sure you're right. This was an afterthought. Like, they were already done with the game, and then someone had this idea, and they're like, "Oh, we'll remove the sound, and then we'll patch it in later." Like, it's already there, but we'll patch in a thing to turn it back on, so that people were forced to play it this way first, because wouldn't that be so cool? But I think if that had been an idea that was implemented when the game started, like if that was something that was like always intended to happen, like it was always intended, they should have done things where if your character understands something, like if your character is reading someone's lips,
right,
or if they're doing sign language or whatever, they should have something that tells you, the player, what your character is understanding.
Or a voiceover, an internal monologue to at least express ideas.
Like, wouldn't it be cool if there were subtitles and it very clearly state the subtitles are what your character is perceiving the person is saying when they're reading the lips.
Right.
And then you play it and you're reading the words and you're looking at what the mouth movements are and you're like, yeah, that makes sense.
Right.
And then you get the sound turn on and they're not saying that. Some of it's correct, because if you're someone who reads lips or looks at someone's lips, it may not be, you may not, I mean, bad lip reading is the YouTube channel has shown that you could totally misread someone's lip reading.
Yes.
But wouldn't it be cool if maybe what they were saying was not exactly what he understood and what you were seeing in the subtitles, but were like that could be a cool idea.
Sure.
But it's very clear this was not done. That was not the intention from the beginning. This was something someone probably thought of late in the game, and they couldn't really make those types of changes, and so they just went, fuck it.
Also, let us not forget that the combat is garbage. Like, all of the actual gameplay that you're doing is just trash. So, that.
Yeah.
Speaking of trash, number one, Fallout 76.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, guys. How the fuck do you fuck up the Fallout franchise this hard? Like, I just don't understand.
Making it multiplayer.
Make it multiplayer. Make it a survival game. Make it all this stuff.
Make it a $60 game.
Make it a $60 game.
Bilk people out of their collector's editions by not releasing what you said you were going to release and releasing something much, much cheaper and more garbage.
There's not a week that's gone by that I haven't had a story about game, including this week. In the news, I got a whole story about them fucking up yet again. Like, I just don't understand. I mean, it's one of those things where I think that Bethesda is on a downturn. And I think that you made a really, really good point when we were talking about Fallout 76, how Fallout 76 almost like, to me, is one of those things where, like, when you take out everything that made the previous Fallout games fun, you're forced to look at, like, what you were enduring to in spite of how fun the story and like, you know, the VATS combat and that kind of stuff was. But all the rest of it was okay. I mean, broken, it was serviceable. Beyond, like, but in any case, I just don't understand from the beginning to the middle to the end. I know there's people that like it. There's people that play with their friends. People like Destiny. I don't like Destiny, right? But I just don't understand. Like, this was one of those things where I'm like, Bethesda, are you just like hell bent to like fuck it all up? Like, do you have like a weird nihilistic death wish? Because like you wouldn't put out a new Elder Scrolls game because you had to do Elder Scrolls Online and then an Elder Scrolls card game, and they put out Fallout 4 and it was meh. Like meh received, and then your response to the meh received Fallout 4 was to take that franchise in a direction that literally nobody wanted. Like, or I'm sure that some people like it and it's fine, but all I can say is I am supremely disappointed with that. I love Fallout, and I love Fallout 3. Like, I'm not just a New Vegas junkie. I like 1, 2, 3. I like that dumb PS2 jumping. No, I don't like that one. That one and Tactics can all go fuck off. But like, I like the Fallout franchise, and this one I'm just like, I mean, I didn't finish 4, but I didn't even start Fallout 76 because why? I'm not interested in any of this, any of it. So anyway, we gotta move this train along because I spent too much time talking about this stuff. John, why don't we do all of your 5?
You want to do my 5?
Why don't we do your 5, or why don't we do? Yeah, let's do all 5 of yours, and then we'll do.
I just say you could do your 10 through. 10.
Do you want me to start at 10, and then if I hit one of yours, then we'll stop, or I'll go up to 5, and then we can do your 5 and my 5 and your 5 and my 5.
Yeah,
that way. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Number 10 on my list was Guacamelee 2.
I really wish I had played this game, and I really want to play this game, but I haven't had the time.
It's funny because I don't know that. I didn't like Guacamelee 2 as much as Guacamelee 1, but when I looked at the list of games that I finished this year, I was like, hey, you know what? It was enjoyable. I thought they had an opening there to do a lot more with the Mexiverse and all of the different things, and there was some stuff in there that was really creative and clever. However, you know what? If Guacamelee 2 is just more Guacamelee 1, I fucking love Guacamelee 1, so, you know, let's not don't look a gift horse in the mouth, you know. Number 9, strangely enough, I have 2 games on here that I would never have thought would be on this list. But number 9 was A Way Out, which I think is probably, like, I think A Way Out is a good game if you're playing it with another friend and you want to have some fun on the couch. I don't think it would be fun to play online or by yourself or any of that. I think you need to have, you know, like a pal. Like Chris and I played all the way through it, and I thought it was like really fun. Now it's possible that this could just end up being like one of those, like, it's a YouTube game. But you know what? I kind of appreciate the weird scope of it and all of the different crazy shit that you can do and the kind of just meandering around in the game world that you can do. And you know what? I really think that it's unappreciated because, I mean, if you haven't played the game, I don't know, are we good to spoil stuff? Or I guess maybe. The game has a really interesting twist that happens at the very end, and I think that it's worth playing with somebody else. I thought that it was too expensive when it came out, and I think it's definitely something to get on the cheap, but it's a lot like Brothers, where, like, I don't think it's going to be, you know, nobody's going to be going out and taking a bullet for A Way Out, but, like, I had a really good time playing A Way Out.
I do also appreciate that they made it so that if like, let's say you are going to play it with a friend through online, that only one of you has to have the game.
Oh, yeah.
The other person doesn't. Like, you could send them a thing, it tells them to download a demo, and then it connects to their game, and then they can play through the full game with you without having to purchase it. Only you had to purchase it.
Yep.
I think that's... I really feel like sometimes certain games I wish did more of that.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, I enjoyed it. And number 8 was also one that I was absolutely flabbergasted with how much that I enjoyed, and that was Detroit Become Human. Which
this one is much higher on my list.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay. Which I mean, I honestly, I am hot and cold on David Cage games, but you know what? It's like I listened to this one podcast with these guys that don't fucking like David Cage at all, and a lot of people just don't.
Is it called Rage Select? Because we don't like David Cage. I have a weird love-hate relationship with him. I love his games for both how good and how bad they are, but I fucking hate David Cage.
Yeah. What was before? Was it Heavy Rain, and then it was
it was Indigo Prophecy, Heavy Rain,
Beyond.
Ellen Page Simulator, and then this,
and then Detroit. Okay, which most of those were muddled and kind of fucked up. I thought Detroit was like surprisingly focused on what it was trying to say.
Yes.
And said it better than any other David Cage game.
Yes.
And there was never a point where the game just fucking wanked out sideways and went stupid, where it went ridiculous. It was just like, I
think it was a little heavy-handed in a few points.
Sure.
But I can forgive heavy-handed considering the subject matter and the fact that every character, mind you, was because you chose to play them. Every protagonist character that you played as was a likable character.
Yeah.
And you endeared yourself to those characters. And literally, Amanda and I both said that if in the Game Awards, when the actor who did Arthur Morgan won the best character of video games, while that was fine, that was a good choice, I don't agree with it.
Yeah.
It really should have gone with the guy who played the detective. Connor, yeah. It really should. Because I felt like his performance as that fucking character made you like that character.
Well,
regardless of how you played it. Because I've seen some people play that character terribly. And I still...
Hey, man, I said I did my best.
And I still liked that character.
Yeah.
And I just felt like that was probably the best new character of 2018. Like, I honestly really like this game more than I expected.
I went into it expecting probably the same, and Amanda and I played all the way through it, right, on Patreon, and I kept waiting for that moment when David Cage went off his rocker and fucking took that left turn into Stupidsville, and I was like, nope. I mean, some of the stuff with Kara later on where she goes to that weird house with that guy, I mean, like, okay, and the theme park, okay. But, like, and the other thing is, I don't think that did Beyond Two Souls have that thing where when you finish the level, it showed you all the choices that you could have made, or at least showed you that there were paths to different choices so that you could kind of go back and try it?
I don't think it did that. I think it told you, I think it might have told you when you beat the game that there were other paths you could have taken,
right,
and showed you what levels you could have made. I don't remember exactly.
I thought that part was also really compelling too, because every time I finished a level, it was like, oh shit, I could have done something there that would have led to like an entirely different branch of this game. Yeah, I was surprised as hell that Detroit was even on my list and that it was so high. But yeah, I mean, Clancy Brown and fucking Connor and all the rest of them, Kara and who was the other guy? Oh, the Marcus, I guess, was the other guy. I mean, I love that scene where Marcus is putting himself back together in the fucking android junkyard. Like, it finally all came together, and the stilted David Cage performances made sense because most of them were robots this time.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I was amazed at how that one came out. Like, I would never recommend a David Cage game to everyone, but I could honestly recommend Detroit Become Human and say, give it a look.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Number 7, Yakuza 6, Song of Life.
It's a good choice.
Over the last 3 years, I have fallen down the Yakuza hole real hard, and Yakuza 6 lulled in a few places, but by and large, it was a great kind of finale for Kiryu Kazama's story, which is especially better when you consider the fact that we now have access to, 0, Kiwami 1, Kiwami 2, and we're about to have access to 3, 4, and 5, that you can kind of play through that whole thing. It was not as razor sharp as some of the other Yakuza games, which is why it's a little bit lower on this list.
I felt like it was. Unfortunately, I didn't beat this one.
Yeah.
But I do felt like from what I was playing, it felt like an appropriate ending. Like it was leading to an appropriate ending for this character. So yeah, I totally agree with that.
I also think that that it was I'm not going to talk about what the ending is, but I mean, I don't know if they'll ever make I don't think they'll ever make another Kiryu Kazama game.
Yeah, if they make another Yakuza game, it's going to have a completely new protagonist.
It'll have to be like a side story or in a prequel or whatever.
But that's also why I'm kind of looking forward to, what is it, Judge Eyes or whatever?
Oh, Project Judge, or I think it's just called
Judgment, I think it's
Judgment,
what
yes.
Yeah. I think it's actually called Judge Eyes in Japan. It's called Judgment here.
Okay.
But that, or something like that.
I didn't realize it was already out in Japan.
Yeah.
It came out like November or something like that. But it was funny because Yakuza 6 it ends up being a very slow story from time to time.
Yeah.
But in a lot of ways, I ended up being like, but I want to slow down and like kind of savor the older Kiryu Kazama who's been, because I played a lot of those. I didn't play 5, but I did play 4 and, half of 0, 1, and 2. Like, I've got enough of it to have a love of Kiryu Kazama where I'm just like, I want to watch this fucking old man carry a baby around a sleepy country town.
Yeah.
So I really liked it. Number 6 for me is Hitman 2.
I thought this would have been much higher on your list, but
strangely enough, when I looked at my list, I would have thought it would have been higher too. I think that Hitman 2 is not as good as Hitman 2016.
Okay.
I think it's very good. I think that there's a lot going on in it, and like a lot of the enhancements and the levels and stuff. It's just going back through some of the older levels. They're just a little bit tighter. The story's a little bit tighter, but Hitman 2 is still phenomenal. If what you want out of Hitman is more Hitman, then Hitman 2's got you covered. And the fact that when you get Hitman 2, you can get all of Hitman 1 integrated into the actual UI. It's like Hitman 2 launches and you can play any of the things from Hitman 1 with graphical enhancements and that stuff. Any of the things from Hitman 2, Sniper Challenge, any of that stuff. It's still a game that I feel like we don't see very often, because unlike Yakuza 6, where all you're kind of doing is running around and like beating ass, but I mean, you can do other stuff, right? But your primary interaction with the world is kicking ass. Hitman is almost like you have this huge world to explore, and it's got so many interesting things to do, so many interesting little tidbits. Again, I feel like it kind of falls down a little bit towards the end, story-wise, and that's the reason it isn't higher on the list.
Okay.
But gameplay-wise, it's just as good as Hitman 2016. And yeah, I can't wait to see what they do next, which is probably reboot Kane and Lynch, which I don't have any interest in. But at least Hitman 2, at least IO is out there and they're doing their stuff. And I still think that you could do yourself a hell of a lot worse than buying Hitman 2 with all the Hitman 1 content and then just plowing through it all start to finish. Like, you could have a much worse time in this world than doing all that. That brings us to number 5. You want to give me your number 5?
Sure. I'm going to say Smash Brothers Ultimate.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's the ultimate version of Smash Brothers. Smash Brothers is always fun for me. I love Smash Brothers and all the characters. There's literally so many fucking characters in this game.
Yeah.
And the controls are well. The fighting is good. It's got a story mode that's long as fucking takes forever.
It took me 30 hours.
Yeah, no, exactly. It takes forever. Mm-hmm. I haven't actually finished it, nor have I actually unlocked all of the characters, but I'm still playing it.
Yep.
So I love it. I've loved playing it with friends. It's great. It is my number 5.
Okay. Anything else?
For
Smash Brothers?
For Smash Brothers, no.
Okay. I've been yip-yapping this entire time, so I didn't want to cut you off.
No, that's it.
Okay. Number 5 for me is Into the Breach.
That is, I'm going to say this, my number 4.
All right. John and I, once we get up here, it's going to be the same 5 games, I think.
That is my number 4.
Number 5 for me was Into the Breach. Man, is it a good game. It's a testament to how you don't need to have AAA stories.
I'm playing it on the Switch.
Yep.
And on my I played it on my PC when it came out. Like, I bought it, played it, obsessed with it. And then it came out on the Switch.
Yep.
I've been playing obsessively on my Switch, even more.
It's amazing how this little just like strategy, and it's also amazing from the FTL, because this is from the group that did FTL.
People, yeah.
that it's accessible, that there's an easy mode, that I can play it and I can beat it. And I don't need to have a super, super hard, difficult time with it. I can go through the game and just kind of have fun with it. I enjoy playing this game on easy over and over and over again.
Yeah.
I have to keep it uninstalled, but even that doesn't work, John, because it's only like 200 megabytes. So if I want to play it, I just double click on it on Steam and it's installed in 1 second.
I just leave it installed on my Switch. And I play it all the time.
I got to get rid of it because it's just too much. It's just too much. I like it too goddamn much.
Yeah.
Which is strange because I never would have. It just kind of came out of nowhere, and I was like, "Oh shit, this is fucking phenomenal."
Well, for me, it was literally like mechs fighting giant monsters.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you've got you have my attention.
Yeah.
You've already sold me the game.
Yep.
Oh, and it's tactics, tactics based. You've solidified that I will probably buy this game on whatever platforms it comes out on.
Right. The only thing that would make it any better, in my opinion, is if when you attacked the little things, if there was like a little Shining Force style cutscene where you got to see like a little more detailed version of your mech hitting the thing. But the different mech teams force you to play in different ways. There's like the achievements that actually give you currency to unlock other stuff that like,
and will sometimes just unlock other stuff.
Yeah, that have you play the game in different ways. Like there's the team where it's mostly just pushing monsters around. Like, you know, there's the team that's all flames. There's the team that's, there's so many different ways to play the game. And it's just like, it's like a minute to learn, a lifetime to master almost.
And also I feel like even if you were not to play as any of those other teams, even if you're just playing it as the base team, it's still super fun. Like that's literally, the other teams are just there to go back and enjoy the game. Like you don't even need to play all those to enjoy. Like I predominantly play with that primary team, but I still, I'm still enjoying the shit out of it.
Yeah.
So it's
incredibly satisfying.
Yes.
For something that's so simple.
Yes.
It's so simple. So that was your number 4.
That was my number 4.
Do you have anything else to say about it?
No, that's we pretty much just said it all.
Well, my number 4 is Super Smash Brothers Ultimate.
All right.
So we just flippy flips.
Just flip those. Yeah.
Do some flips there. This is the year. This is when it happened. Is that I finally get it. And it's because of World of Light. Because the problem that I had, in fact, I even loaded up the Wii U version of Smash Brothers just to make sure of this. But like, there was like a weird Mario Party Mii's running around the map, like party mode, and then there was like play with your friends. Look, I don't want to play Smash Brothers with my friends because they're all way better at Smash Brothers than I am. Yes, and I don't want to play online because they're all way better than I am online. I want to play against a computer and then feel a sense of accomplishment when I win. And fucking A does that 30 goddamn hour gachapon RPG unlock mode of the World of Light do that.
Yeah.
Like, I have never seen a fighting game do what that does, because it's not just moving around the board and doing your fights. Like, it's not just that you got to keep moving around and doing fights. Like, there are puzzles, there are unlocks, there are Pokemon that you're going to pick up that unlock another part of the map, like you play in goddamn Metroid. There's a whole Castlevania part that I don't think you've even gotten to.
No, I haven't.
It was amazing. And not only that, but it has the fucking cojones with that spirit system to put battles on your map that you can't win, that no matter how good you are, or, well, if you're really good, I'm sure you could win, but that like you could win through skill, or you could win through finding spirits, leveling them up, bringing back a specific loadout to deal with what's going on this
Sometimes
level.
You can also win by pure luck.
Also very true.
Because there were a couple of those where literally it was just the right hit at the right moment, and then it just fucking won.
Yeah.
Like, it was like, I shouldn't have won that. There's no reason I should have won that match.
Yep.
But yeah, no,
And the fact that they don't force you into playing as specific characters, I went back and I was looking at some of the old Mortal Kombats, and right during the story mode there, I love the story mode for NetherRealm games, but like the fact that it makes you play as Raiden for the last fight, like this one is just like, who do you want to play? Player,
It starts you off forcing you to play a specific character, and then
so the only reason it's lower on this list is because fucking Kirby. No,
But then as you start unlocking characters, it's like, all right, if you want to switch to one of those other characters you've unlocked, go for it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And if you want to, in a lot of cases, if you want to overpower the CPU by having like some really powerful spirits on your side, you can play a character that might not be very good to play. You could pick your favorites, and you know what? That's not even fucking all.
No.
That would be a $60 game all on its own. But the fact that you can play with your buddies and smash them up, and that's fine. But the fact that they have that single-player mode where you're just running through the gauntlet, it's like 12 matches, and like the one of them is one of those big boss characters that they have, and they're all themed. Like when you play as Link, you fight Ganon. When you play as Trevor, you fight Dracula, and the care and attention to detail that's been given to all these characters. I have not seen Castlevania characters treated this well in a long, long time.
It does bring a tear to my eye at how well they're treated. And
I haven't seen Metal Gear characters treated this well in a while.
And I also think it's interesting because the Emissary of Light, or whatever the fuck it's called, the World of Light. I seen the ending, so I know how it ends, and it kind of doesn't really make any sense. But I think Game Theory did a really interesting interpretation of it, of what the ending actually means.
Right.
And I don't know if his interpretation is correct, but I think it's an interesting little theory.
Yeah.
I think it leaves a lot open to interpretation.
Yeah.
And I appreciate it.
Okay, we're going into overtime because we're not stopping now. Number 3, John.
Detroit Become Human.
Detroit Become Human.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to say about Detroit Become Human?
No. We pretty much said it all. I was just going to say it and just say it's Detroit Become Human. It's fucking great.
It's so much better than it has any goddamn business being.
I agree.
Like, considering it would be like if suddenly, I don't know, who's a bad game developer? Be like suddenly if Borderlands 3 was like the best game of 2019 or something like that. I don't know. I don't know. I have so many hangups with David Cage that it's just amazing to me.
It would be like and it's almost the opposite of this.
Yeah.
It's almost like the antithesis of this. It would be like somehow if Suda51's games were not only crazy and bonkers like Suda51 makes, but were also like AAA games with like polish and like not jankiness and don't get me wrong, that's part of the charm of Suda's games is how simplistic and kind of janky they are.
Yeah.
And how kind of stuck in the past in mechanics wise, but if they were somehow like polished and like great, and then you had all the Suda51 stuff slapped on top of it.
Yeah. Okay. Number 3 for me is a Spider-Man.
Okay.
Because we're up in the top 3 now.
Yeah.
So like, I don't really necessarily feel like I got to see like Spider-Man. It was great. It was absolutely fantastic. As somebody who's played who ended up playing a bunch of like the Beanock Spider-Man games, I think it's like way better than those.
Oh,
not that
totally
those are terrible games, but like, wow, amazing. Like this reimagines Spider-Man in a way. It's interesting because it's like not to just Matt Frank the fuck out over here, but the fact that we live in a world where like there are 3 different iterations of Godzilla happening right now. There's like the Netflix Godzilla, there's like the American Godzilla, and then there's a Japanese Godzilla that are all happening like kind of at the same time. I almost feel like we're like that with Spider-Man, right? Because we got like we just got the trailer for Spider-Man Home Away from Home.
Far From Home.
Far From Home, and then we've got Into the Spider-Verse that everybody's fucking blasted nuts off.
My favorite movie of last year.
And we've got the Spider-Man game that is just like so well executed.
Not to mention the comic is pretty good right now.
It's like spider sauce. It's like spider sauce. No, it's really good. There were a few things that I didn't like quite as much as other people liked, and it's weird. Like, I thought the DLC ended up being like okay, but if the worst thing I got to say is that the DLC was only pretty good, then like, come on, but. Everything outside of that, I really, really enjoyed Spider-Man. I mean, the combat, the web swinging, all that stuff, the costumes. It's the difference between when you see somebody make a game because they're contractually obligated to make a game and somebody who made a game because they honestly love what they're making.
Yes,
and I think
agree with you on that.
Really comes through in Spider-Man in spades. And that's why it's my number 3. John, what's your number Red
Dead Redemption 2.
Okay. All right.
Yes. I I put this as my number 2 because I'm still playing it. Actually, I'm in the epilogue, but so I feel like I've beaten enough of it to be able to say that it is firmly like there's nothing the game is going to do at the point that I'm at in the game that is going to make this game better for me.
So you haven't hit the point where the main character is abducted and it turns into the new Doom game.
Yeah. I'm not. So it's like I'm because again I'm in epilogue 2.
Right.
I'm pretty sure there's nothing that's going to make the game like exponentially better for me.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a well-crafted game.
Mm-hmm.
This is I feel like this is Red Dead 1,
mm-hmm.
but better, like made just more polished, better graphics. Some more interesting characters. It adds some depth to John Marston's character.
Yeah,
who's not even the main protagonist of this game, but it adds some depth to when you go back and play to the first Red Dead Redemption. It
reframes John Marston.
Reframes in a way that doesn't feel like it's retconning anything.
No.
So it feels like it just adds another layer that you didn't know was there.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate that. And Arthur Morgan, it's funny because when I first started playing it, I kind of didn't like the character of Arthur Morgan.
I can see that.
Not in I didn't like how the character acted. I didn't like his voice.
Yeah.
I actually hated his voice when I first started that game.
John was telling me all about this, in depth.
And I don't know what it was about his voice. I was just like, I do not like his voice. But about a third into it,
mm-hmm.
I was like, "Oh man, I can't imagine playing this game with any other voice.
Right?
Like I can't imagine this character voiced by any other person."
Mm-hmm.
And I like the choice system. If the reason it is not my number 1 pick, is that I feel like it's the smaller details.
Mm-hmm.
Because there were a lot of times where I'm playing, like, they give you the choice of, do it like the whole honor system, like, that you
mm-hmm.
play John Marston your way, or not John Marston, but Arthur Morgan. You play Arthur Morgan your way.
Right.
And you play him the way you want to play him, and he's your character, he's your version. Like the way I play Arthur Morgan may not be the same way you're playing Arthur Morgan.
Does he have a bear hat on?
No, he does not.
But it's not a Dr. Albert Schnitzel.
Yeah, but it's also the same way that someone else that's playing Arthur Morgan may. Because I think, I think I talked to Amanda. She watched the way I was playing, and I think she might have watched a little bit of yours and Jason's playthrough, and was like, "Yeah, you're not playing it the same way that they're playing. You're not making the same choices." But it's very much a thing where, but even that, we're still playing the same game.
Right.
My problem is that because there's moments in the game, like there's moments where he has like these little sit downs in the camp
mm-hmm.
with one of the females, and they're like, "What's wrong, Arthur?" And he's like, "I don't know. I just keep killing innocent people, and I kill these animals for no reason other than just to kill them, and I don't know what's wrong with me." And I'm like, I haven't killed anyone in like 2 chapters, nor have I killed any animals outside of hunting to get food for the. What the fuck is this game talking about? Like, there's these little moments where the game is like, no, we expected you to play it like this. So there's these little cutscenes that don't really jive with how I'm playing it, and that are kind of immersion breaking.
Okay.
That kind of bother me a little bit.
Sure.
Because it's also this thing where Rockstar really wants their open world game where you can go have this giant sandbox that you can just do whatever the fuck you want.
Sure.
But also they have this very cinematic story that they're telling that conflicts with that open worldness a little bit. And it's not necessarily a bad thing because, again, it's my number 2 game of the year.
Right.
But it's a little bit of a jarring when the two kind of those two aspects collide with each other and don't fit mm-hmm. the way that I feel like they should, because I feel like either Rockstar needs to focus more on their open world sandboxiness, or they need to make the game a little bit more linear, because there were also a few instances where I story broke the game, like where I very clearly did something and interacted with a character before I'm supposed to know who that character is, okay. or know that character's in that spot, because then I did a story mission and it's like I completed an entire quest line for a side character, and then started playing the main story. And then suddenly my character meets that character for the first time in this story. And I'm like, wait, was I not supposed to be able to do that? Other stuff? Why was I allowed to do that if I wasn't supposed to meet the character till now? What's going on? You know, kind of, again, there were finer details that I feel like could have been worked on a little bit. Having said that, it's a great fucking game.
Yep.
It's my number 2 pick of the year.
Yep.
It's fucking awesome. I have so much fun playing it as a Western. Like I said, I've been playing it pretty much predominantly most of December and even most of the beginning of January because I really want to play the game and finish it. I could give 2 shits about the online mode. I played it a little bit. If that's your thing, great. It's not my thing.
It's not my thing either. Yeah.
But I like the fact that it's there. I like the fact that the online mode is a prequel to the game, to Red Dead Redemption 2.
Okay.
Well, the Red Dead Redemption Online takes place before Red Dead Redemption 2, because there are things that happen in Red Dead Redemption 2 that haven't happened in the online mode. Like Sadie's house has not burned down in the online mode. You can go to McFarlane Ranch and meet Bonnie at McFarlane Ranch. She's not there in Red Dead 2 because in the online mode she even states, I'm going on a trip with my father within the next couple of days overseas, to explain why she's not there in the main game. Like, there's little hooks that say, okay, they may not spell it out, but there's little things that tell you it takes place before the events of Red Dead Redemption 2. And it also explains why you don't see certain characters in Red Dead Redemption 2 that were there in Red Dead Redemption 1.
Okay.
Which the reason they're not in Red Dead Redemption 2 is because they don't want to story break the fact that you meet those characters in Red Dead Redemption 1. Also, I want to say this other thing. There's a whole side quest mission with a nun character that is literally the most heartwarming, most emotional scene for me, and I don't know why it's as emotionally just like hits me emotionally. The final chapter of that, and then I realized, wait, that character's in fucking Red Dead Redemption 1. She's the nun in Mexico.
Oh, yeah.
And I didn't even realize that until that last minute. And I'm like, wait, holy shit. Like little moments like that where, because it's been, and like, I am honest that there's a part of me that wants to, once I actually do finish Red Dead 2, then immediately boot up Red Dead 1 and play through it all over again.
And just go right into it.
Just to go right into it. But I'm not, because I got a bunch of other fucking games to play.
All right. That was your number 2, right?
That was my number 2.
Okay. Number 2 for me is God of War.
See, I didn't play God of War, so it's not on my list.
Yeah. Which I can say is 100%. You know what?
But I understand it being on your list.
I fucking love God of War. I think it's an incredibly... This year has been a year where I've gotten to see a lot of video game protagonists that I played when I was in my 20s get old. And now I am 40 years old, and I like the fact that Kiryu Kazama is an old grandpa carrying a baby around. And I like the fact that fucking Kratos is a weird dad. Let me just say, I think that, I have a whole... I'm not going to talk about it right now, but I have a whole thing where I think that I'm going to talk about it a little bit, but I'm not going to go as far into it. A whole thing where I think that God of War is absolutely brilliant in the way that it gives you a type of video game mechanic, the escort mission, and makes the escort mission your son. Not only that, but gives you a character that is a kid, which I know I'm not the only motherfucker out here who's like, oh, God, a kid. Not just a kid, but like a whiny kid. And I'm just like, I want to play as fucking grown-ups, as Kratos. And then through the game, over the course of the game, with the mechanics in the game, like slowly, as Kratos comes to care for his boy, I came to care for that boy too, both in a story way and in a mechanics way, to the point where at the end of the game, I couldn't imagine even playing the game without the kid and his dumb bow and all the dumb arrows that he had and all this bullshit.
Yeah.
Like, the gameplay reinforced the story in a way that this almost was my number 1, because I thought that this story was absolutely 100% phenomenal.
I'm going to be honest. Hearing what I've heard about the game, I feel like if I had played this game and played it to completion, my top 5 would be completely different.
Well, I mean, it's possible. I just for years we've been looking at like Kratos takes on a different mythology, right? And that's kind of what happens here. But I like the fact that Kratos is different. I like the fact that Kratos is older and wiser and kind of has his shit a little bit more under control. But there's still a god of war there. I like the fact that he only has a couple of weapons in the game, like 3 weapons total. But the way that those weapons hook together and the different things that you can do with them give you so many different ways to play the game in ways that I think are just, they could have just made another God of War. But I'll be honest, I was tired of God of War by the end of God of War 3. I was tired of Kratos just mass murdering everybody, and the gameplay was starting to be a little bit old for me. I'm so glad that this game is what it is, that it's different. And not only that, but it looks beautiful. It sounds beautiful. Everything about it, I really enjoyed from start to finish. In fact, I even downloaded it, and I got my 4K TV, right? And I knew that it runs in 4K, and I booted it up in 4K to look at it, and I was like, I have to stop and uninstall this right now, because if I start playing this again, I'm going to play all the way the fuck through it a second time, and I'm not even going to feel bad about it either. Like, to me, it is one of the most well put together games that I played this year. Hell, I mean, it's number 2 on my list, right? It is the game in it. And not only, I feel like once we start to get into some of the top stuff, like there were points in Spider-Man 3 that were emotionally touching to me, but God of War, like, motherfucker, that shit resonated. I don't have children, but like the idea of like, of seeing somebody change as they get older in video games. I like seeing that. I like seeing a difference in the character, because too often I feel like video games we have 100 games with the same character and they never really change at all. And I like it when a character gets older and wiser. And that was what I got out of God of War. And by the end of the game, I fucking cared about that little shit. And I didn't think I was going to, because at the beginning I was just like, shut up, boy. I want to see Kratos do stuff. And then at the end I was just like, oh. So yes, number 2, God of War. I think that it's pretty clear at this point. Spider-Man?
Yeah, no, my number 1 is Spider-Man. Okay. It's a great game. It resonates with me because I'm a huge comic nerd. I'm a big fan of Spider-Man. He's definitely probably my favorite or second favorite or tied for first favorite Marvel character. Okay. Behind Daredevil maybe. Mm-hmm. Overall I would say he's probably number 3 with Daredevil on all-time favorite superheroes. Okay. Number 1 and 2 being either the Flash or Green Lantern, which rotates on a daily basis. But Spider-Man is one of those characters that I identify with. I am Peter Parker in a lot of ways. My parents died. I lived with my aunt and uncle for a long time. My uncle never died, and I never got bit by a radioactive spider. So,
this close.
This close. It was, I wouldn't wish my uncle to die, but he did help raise me a little bit. So, right. I have a lot of affinity for that character, and I felt like this. There were certain aspects of it I was a little worried about before playing it, and all those just washed away as soon as I started playing the game. Yeah, like that game is just so much fun. The web swinging is so good. Like it's the best it's ever been. On top of that, the voice actor for Peter is so good. The relationships with other characters, the way they play with expectations. I feel like some people have a complaint with Dr. Octopus, in the fact that, they're like, oh, it's so obvious he becomes, Dr. Octopus, that Otto Octavius becomes Dr. Octopus. It's like, Peter's just like, that's weird, but it's so clear that it's like, is it clear? Or is it just because that Octavius becomes Dr. Octopus that you're looking for it, right? But it's such a good relationship with Otto, as a mentor and a student with Peter and Otto Octavius. It's such a good relationship in the game.
I've never seen that before. Like I've never actually seen the relationship between the two of them get more developed. I've seen like Peter and Kirk Connors, or Peter and Osborn.
Yeah.
Like, I've seen him. I've even seen in the movies Peter and Tony Stark, but I don't think I've ever seen like Peter Parker is Otto Octavius's lab assistant, because by the time I got into comics, Otto Octavius was already a Dr. Octopus. So like, I never saw that, and I thought it was a really fresh take that I hadn't seen with Spider-Man before.
Oh, definitely. And also you're seeing this descent of how someone who was respected in the comics field, or not comics field, but in the science field, could become, slowly over time could become this evil, villain. And then when you get to the end and you have to fight Dr. Octopus, it's such an emotional tear. Like, that entire fight is so emotionally draining. Yeah. And the fact that there's more emotional stuff immediately afterwards is just, there's just so much emotion in the game as a whole, and it's great. And I'm not even, again, this is before you even get to DLC. The beginning to end, that Spider-Man game, not even looking at DLC, is such a great story. And the fact that you also have all these costumes that you can do. Yeah. And there's a lot of missions in it. There's a lot of side stuff to do. There's all the characters are interesting. The whole Spider Cop thing is funny. Yeah. Joke is funny. And then, you add on top of it the DLC, which it doesn't need to be purchased and played to understand the main story. Like, that's kind of an extra thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is all of it good? No, but for the DLC, no, it's not all great, but it's entertaining. Like, I've never once regretted playing that DLC.
It's kind of like, if you just want some more Spider-Man in your life,
exactly.
you can have some more Spider-Man.
You get more Spider-Man. There's like little nods and little unlockables, and all the fucking costumes, the DLC costumes included, are so great. So no matter what costume you're a fan of, it's almost guaranteed there's going to be one costume that if you don't like the primary costume for the game, with the giant white spider, which I know a lot of people don't like that costume.
I didn't like it originally, but I really grew to like it.
I never gave myself a chance to like it, because I immediately switched to the Scarlet Spider costume, and I played the entire game with that.
Of course,
because I fucking love that rendition of the Scarlet Spider costume. It's so good.
Yeah.
But then you also add a photo mode.
Which is just catnip for John. John.
I love photo modes in games, but this game is everything I wanted in a game. Like, it's fun. There's emotional story. There's emotional stakes, and they pay attention to tiny details. Like that's the reason it beats out Red Dead for me, is that this game, I never feel like I'm playing the game one way and the game's telling me, oh, I should have been playing it, or it's expecting me to play it a different way. I'm playing it exactly how it's like. There's a moment where you can do this thing where, there's a mission, like you get to an area and it says, there's a police broadband thing. Oh, you got to go save this. Well, I want to go do the story thing, so I'm going to ignore that. And then suddenly J. Jonah Jameson comes on the radio and goes, I got a listener on the phone about Spider-Man. What happened? Well, there was this crime going on and Spider-Man just swung off. Like, he saw the crime and he left. Well, there you go. Spider-Man's not helping anyone. And it's like, and I felt bad because I ignored a crime, and J. Jonah Jameson comes on the radio, and the game knew I did that. Yep. The game also knew when I changed costume. I hear Spider-Man's swimming around in a different costume. What's going on there? Are there more of them? What's really going on? And also the fact that the dialogue can change. Like, they actually thought about, like, if Spider-Man's just standing still on a rooftop, he has calm. But if you do that same scene a second time and he's web swinging, he actually is struggling in his voice, like he's actually doing web swinging while he's talking. Like, all those minor attention to detail. Just such a good game. Makes it my number one. Fuck, I love this game.
Yep. Hey, man, this is my number 3. I thought Spider-Man was great. I
also don't fault for people saying it's not as good as to deserve to be number 1. But, like you said, it's good enough to be in a top 5. If you're somewhere in your top 5, that's fine. But for me personally, it's my fucking number 1 best game. I stopped playing Red Dead to play the DLC for Spider-Man.
We're not on Metacritic, and nobody is greenlighting games based on you or I's opinion. So, like, if you disagree with us, I'm just going to say, good job, bro. You have your opinion, and we'll have our opinion.
And I love the fact that all the DLCs come out, and then Marvel said, "Oh yeah, expect something fantastic to be announced for the DLC to be announced for the Spider-Man game in the near future." And I'm like, "You're gonna give me more DLC? It's probably just gonna be a costume, but fuck, give me some more story."
Oh hell, they probably had the best Christmas present of video gaming, where they were just like, "Here's that Raimi outfit, just have it, have the Raimi outfit."
Yeah, I agree.
Well, I think that by process of elimination, it's probably easy to see what my number one game this year was.
I don't know what it is. I honestly have no clue.
Red Dead Redemption 2?
Oh.
It wasn't anywhere else on the list.
Oh, I thought you hated that game.
Oh, yeah. I fucking loathe Red Dead Redemption 2.
I was just fucking with you. I knew what it was.
No, I absolutely adore Red Dead Redemption 2, and I'm sorry if this, I mean, it obviously doesn't come as a shock to anybody, or it shouldn't have come to a shock to anybody, but I think that Red Dead Redemption 2 is phenomenal. Everything that you said about the stuff that you didn't like about it, I think it's interesting because I didn't run into any of that. And that probably was because at a certain point I got tired of talking to people, but you know what? I absolutely, positively, 150 million% thought that Red Dead Redemption 2 was like not just a very good game, but like I thought it was a triumph. I really, really did.
Oh, no, I agree with you.
Like, not only that, a lot of people forget that this is the first time, at least that I can figure out, where Rockstar has literally like continued a story. Like the Grand Theft Auto series is always a different protagonist. Like you may run into different characters, but like the Red Dead 2 does so much to make Red Dead 1 a better game.
I agree with that.
Because of how much you can see of the protagonist, the background.
I was totally worried that Red Dead 2 was going to make me hate John Marston. Because
I thought that it might. Yeah.
Grand Theft Auto 5 did a bunch of shit to make me not like characters from Grand Theft Auto 4.
Yeah, like who?
Well, they killed the main character of
The Lost in the Dam.
Of Lost in the Dam as a fucking one-off joke, as a throwaway. Like, oh, this character's a fucking fuck up now.
Yep.
It's like, go fuck yourself.
But I thought that recontextualizing, because it's interesting. I don't know if they thought about this when they were making Red Dead 1, but Red Dead 1 focuses so much on like all this stuff over here that it doesn't feel like an empty game. But there were a lot of things about like Dutch and the gang and the past that were just never mentioned because they weren't necessary to know the plot of Red Dead 1, and Red Dead 2 fills that in. Not just that, but it's been a long time, John, since I have played a game that uses its length to reinforce the story.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Is that there are parts towards the end of the game where I'm tired and Arthur's tired and everybody's tired, and it wouldn't have worked. So often in games we get this compression of time where it feels like you've been playing this game for 8 hours and it's like 2 weeks later, and it's just like, oh, right. It doesn't feel like that. But like the amount of things that you're doing, the amount of like side stuff, I think that there are whole chapters in that game that could have been their own games.
Yeah, I
all
agree.
of the Romeo and Juliet fucking what's the Fistful of Dollars stuff between the two houses and roads.
Yeah.
All of the stuff in Saint Denis, the fact that there's a whole chunk of the map that you don't even go to, the fact that, as you and I have said, that they could have taken, if they'd done a bajillion years of work, they could have literally had you end the game and then been like, press A to start Red Dead Redemption 1, and it would have seamlessly flowed right into that game at the end of it, and it adds so much to that game. Like, I don't think I've played a prequel game. Like, so many prequel games they're just like an excuse because it would be too hard to make a sequel. Like, if you want to make Red Dead Redemption 2, right? Okay, this is a spoiler alert for Red Dead Redemption 1, so skip over 30 seconds if you don't want to hear this. But if you wanted to make a Red Dead Redemption 2 that came after Red Dead Redemption 1, you'd have to play as fucking Jack Marsden or some new character, because John Marsden is not alive at the end of Red Dead Redemption 1. So I feel like a lot of times when characters write themselves into that corner, the way that they try to get around that is by going back in time and making a game that happens before. But a lot of times they're disconnected. There's like a lot of winking and nodding and nudging about like, ha, ha, ha. But here I feel like you're actually getting like Uncle is a worthless character in Red Dead Redemption 1, but I know a lot more about Uncle.
I actually have a lot more of a affinity for Uncle. Like, I actually thought Uncle was okay. Like, I thought he was a charming old man.
Right.
In Red Dead Redemption 1. Like, it was just like, I get the character he is. It's kind of endearing, but it's a throwaway like comedy bit character. But, you know, he's kind of endearing, but I see why they keep him around, but overall he's a worthless sack of shit.
Right.
But Red Dead 2 at first presents that like worthless sack of shit kind of throwaway comedy character, but over the course of 2, it's like I have a new affinity for Uncle that I never thought I would have after playing Red Dead 1.
Yeah, and there's just like there are characters in that game that die that I was like, no, there's there's stuff that happens, and the thing that I find the most like when I got to the end of Red Dead Redemption 2, what it felt like for me was when I turned the last page of Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Like reading a fucking epic, like reading a 3,000 page
This was
book
a Western epic
where you spent hour after hour after hour with these characters, and then when you saw that last page and you turned it and it said the end, and you were just like, oh, I felt I've been on this journey for hundreds of years with you, and like I feel that, but the fact that it sets up, that it adds to the game that came before it is such a monumental triumph. In spite of that, it's amazing because one, the online I could give less of a shit about, but like I think that if you want to charge me $60 for a 35 to 40 hour single player game, you could add your
it's what I really felt like Fallout 76 should have been. It should have been like an extra thing that was added like
to another Fallout, to Fallout 4,
to Fallout 4, like just like, oh, and it's free add-on,
right?
Like much like they did with Grand Theft Auto and Grand Theft Auto Online and Red Dead Redemption 2 and Red Dead Redemption 2 Online. But it's like where Bethesda kind of failed miserably, Rockstar kind of succeeded. Even if it's not something you wanted, you didn't pay extra for it.
Yep.
And even if it is broken, you didn't pay extra for it.
Yep.
And also, they are working to fix it.
As near as I could tell, like the people that want to play that stuff, like Jason plays it all the time with his brother, and he tells me these stories about it. The people that want to play it, it sounds like a perfectly functional online game where you can play with other people in the Wild West. I have no interest, but it's a $60. It's like when I was talking about Smash Brothers. Like if all Smash Brothers was World of Light, a 30-hour fighting game RPG, that's worth $60 to me. And the fact that Red Dead is a 40-hour Western epic before you hit the online, totally worth the money and more.
Yeah.
Like
not even factoring in Red Dead Online, I will honestly say I feel like paying $60 for Red Dead Redemption 2 was a
steal?
Yeah, it was. It was a steal. I honestly do feel like that.
But see, what's funny is that not only all that stuff that I've said, but then I keep seeing stuff online that I never found, and I know there's a bunch of quests that I never did, and there's areas of the map that I didn't really dig into. Like, it got to a point where I was kind of just running towards the end because I run this website. I got to fucking get going.
Yeah.
But, like, I think there's, like, even more shit that I didn't even see in that world.
What's funny is there's stuff that I know of that I didn't see.
Yeah.
And there's stuff that I know of that I did see that is great. And there's one thing that I kind of had it spoiled after I did the mission, and I'm currently there's an extra piece that is completely optional to it that got spoiled for me.
Yeah.
And I'm also like trying to decide. I was trying to figure out if I should do that extra thing, but now that I'm in the epilogue, I don't know if I can do that extra thing anymore.
I think you can. I think you can still do a lot of that stuff.
But I also this kind of goes back to the reason why it's my number 2.
Right.
I'm in the epilogue, and any stranger side quest that I didn't fully complete, it started over from scratch.
Yeah, I think that happened to me because there was a mission that I did, and then when I got to the epilogue, it was like, oh, why am I doing this again?
Yeah, the chain gang one, because I didn't do the last one for that one, so it started it over.
Yep, it was exactly that one. Yep.
Oh yeah.
But in spite of all that, the first person, the customization, the whole taking a bath. I gave more of the only horse in video games that I cared more about my horse in Red Dead Redemption 2 was fucking Argo in Shadow of the Colossus. Like, that's another one of those things about reinforcing emotion with gameplay, about like by making me not be able to fast travel and having to take my horse everywhere and having my horse be able to die and having putting all this stuff by putting the weapons on it and supplies and all this stuff.
And then you have to keep it groomed. You have to keep it fed.
Like, I fucking cared about that dumb video game horse. And I can't tell you, I didn't give a shit about the video game horses in Red Dead 1. I mean, I care about Greedo, but that was because Jason and I made up a bunch of shit about a video game horse. Like, when I was playing Red Dead 2, I cared about my horse even when nobody was watching, even when I was by myself, right? Like, there were things when I was playing the online where I just went to camp somewhere and some hillbillies, like, came up to me and they were like, we better not see you around here no more. Like, just out of nowhere, apropos of nothing. I know there's tons of shit in that game that I haven't even seen. And what I saw was almost too much game for me.
Yeah.
So I think that when I look at it, Red Dead 2 represents to me one of the best open world games I've ever played, one of the best narrative video games I've ever played, one of the best sequel/prequel/extensions of a story I've ever played.
I agree.
Just 100%. Like, I loved Red Dead Redemption 2. And that's what I got to say.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on all of that. Like I said, it's more of a personal thing for me that it didn't end up being my number one, but I don't disagree with anything you said.
I got you.
And if
it's your number two,
yeah, and literally when I was making the list, I was going back. It was like, well, maybe Red Dead 2 should be my number one. I was like, but I really have a personal connection to Spider-Man, so maybe that. And it was like,
which one do you like the most?
Yeah,
you know?
It literally. You could ask me 3 weeks from now, and I'd be like, all right, no, Red Dead 2 is number. It literally could swap as just depending on what my mood is that day. Both of them are equally great games.
Yep. All right, we have already been going on for almost 2 hours, but I'm going to run through the rest of this list real fast, just because we have a regular podcast, or the first part of a regular podcast to do. So, games that I played that I think belong that are good, but I didn't finish them, or games that I finished that came out in 2017 that maybe had a release in 2018. Starlink Battle for Atlas, I thought was actually a really fun game that kind of slipped under the radar. You know, the little toy one that had the Star Fox one. I thought it was really fun, and it had a lot more. It was a lot more fun than it deserved to any business. Donut County, which I didn't ever finish, but you know, dropping trash pandas in holes. I mean, how could you not like that? Come on, it's great. Subnautica, which technically came out in December, which I just played.
It's also been in early access forever.
Yeah, I know it came out on the PC a long time ago, but Amanda and I played it for our Patreon, and it was really the first time that I really sat down with the full release version and dug into it. Absolutely fantastic, and I really enjoyed it. Octopath Traveler was one where I actually can't, like, I kind of lost interest in it 3/4 of the way through, like I do with a lot of RPGs. But I really like the idea of making a kind of the throwback sprite-based stuff. I think it looks really good, sounds really good. The only problem that I had with it was that the RPG system started to become difficult to the point where I was going to have to like grind or cheat or look up a guide, and I was just like, I'm done with that. The Spyro Reignited trilogy. I never really played the Spyro games, but that Reignited trilogy that came out, wowzers, was that great. Like, of all of the throwbacks to old games that we've seen with Crash and some of the other stuff, that was the one where I was like, wow, this is really easy to just pick up and play. It's really fun. It's really charming. And they did a really good job bringing this particular franchise up to date. So, you know, especially if you got kids, man, Spyro, damn. Dead Cells went into full release this year, and I could dump time into Dead Cells. You know, I never got to the end of it, but I got probably about 2/3 of the way through it. And I just really, it's a great concept that's well executed in a way that I really enjoyed. These next two are ones that I ended up beating this year, but that came out in 2017. And the first one is Nier Automata, which I put down but then ended up coming back to this year, and I'm glad that I did. I think it's a very obtuse game, but if you can kind of play through it multiple times, I think that it is. I understand why people regard it so highly, but it's hard to describe without ruining it how good it is, because it literally requires you to play a long as fuck game numerous times. And I think that the combat can be a little bit repetitive and dull from time to time, and there were things that I didn't even realize you could do to kind of mitigate that until I literally finished the game. So, but it's a very unique game. It's very different and interesting, and I think it's worth checking out. Okay. Definitely better than the original Nier. Number 2 was Hellblade, which I think that I didn't get really around to playing until this year. I really like Hellblade. Like, it makes me really interested to see what that's Ninja Theory, right?
Yeah.
It's going to do, because they're doing Microsoft.
Yeah,
point, right?
Microsoft
bottom. But I while Hellblade was not, probably would have made it kind of close to the bottom of like a top 10 for the year.
I think if I'd actually thought about my 6 through 10, Hellblade probably would have been either around 7 or 6.
Because that was 2017, though, wasn't it?
Was it?
I think it was 2017.
Oh, I don't know.
Because it came out this year on the Xbox One. I don't know.
I could be wrong then.
But
maybe it was on one of my lists for last year. I don't know.
Before I was like, no, John, I just need 3 more months to finish Persona. Oops, not going to be finishing Persona. Yeah, August of last year was when
okay, then it was probably on my last year's thing.
And then last but not least, Return of the Obra Dinn, which I never finished. I really liked. I really liked. I just kind of got to a point where the only way I was going to be able to continue playing it was if I looked up a guide, and I didn't really want to do that. But all those games I ended up playing this year. Oh, wait, and I guess I missed Divinity, Original Sin 2, which I haven't finished, but I really liked. It was the top-rated PC game of 2017, and it came out on consoles this year, and I really dig that. If you're into those kind of, what do they call them, like CRPGs, the like Baldur's Gate style games, I'm not usually as big of a fan of those, but that one was absolutely fantastic. Now we're going to go ahead and take a break. And we're going to talk about Mortal Kombat 11. So, hold on. And we're back. And we didn't just have Game of the Year to talk about this week, John. In spite of the fact that it went on for like 2 hours. So.
Hey, I will say my best of the year for Geek Bombast episode was 3 hours long.
Okay. Well, hey, we're
but mind you, I mean, we talked about like we didn't go through like top 5 or whatever. We literally just top 1 and maybe like one other honorable mention.
Right.
But we did it for like comics, movies, TV, video games, best comic writer, best comic artist, kind of thing.
So it's like a whole Academy Award.
Yeah. We had a kind of a whole thing, and it ended up being like 3 hours long. It was crazy.
Well, we don't have the luxury of that because there was news this week. There was big fighting game news this week. There was huge Titanic fighting game news. I don't even know how you could be alive right now without knowing that there is a Power Rangers fighting game.
Yes.
And it is happening.
And it's so I'm going to So I'm a huge Power Rangers fan.
Yes.
You know this. I'm sure that's why you specifically said, oh, we're going to talk about this.
Oh, we're talking about it.
It's a port of the fucking mobile game.
Oh, is it? Okay, because it looks like garbage. It looks like total trash. There is a mobile game called, I think it's like Battle for the Grid or something like that. That's what this is called.
Oh, it's like something. I forget what the mobile game is called, but it's the same company. It's literally the same company. They're using the same goddamn assets according to this trailer. It looks just like the mobile game, except a little bit crisper.
Yeah.
And the thing is that they even said like, oh, in this game, it's not going to be like your typical game where combos are the thing that determine to win. This one is more about determining when to strike, not how to strike. And it's like, it's the fucking mobile game. Fuck you. You're going to expect me to pay $29.99 for a goddamn port of a mobile game, of a freemium mobile game on top of that.
You're so angry, Jeff.
Yes, because I want a good fighting game for Power Rangers. I want it to be good.
Yeah.
Now, they did say the controls are not going to be like the tablet game because the tablet game is just swiping, and they're a little bit more involved, but it's still the same style of combat, and I don't like the style of combat. I mean, it's your typical mobile game fighter.
Yeah.
And and it's just like, and obviously they're not going to have like a bunch of costumes that you have to pretty much pay to win.
Right.
I don't know. Like I'm also the month that they're releasing this, holy fuck, was that a bad decision?
Yeah.
Because if I'm not mistaken, it comes out the same day as something else we're going to talk about a little bit later.
Maybe. What?
Mortal Kombat 11.
Oh. Okay, well, that's good. That's a good segue, because I don't really want to talk about this anymore, because Mortal Kombat 11 was what we're really going to talk about. That was just mostly a joke. We had a big Mortal Kombat 11 reveal, and Woo!
Holy shit.
In the words of Ric Flair, woo!
Yeah.
Man, oh man. Okay, anybody who knows Jeff even a little bit knows that I love me some goddamn NetherRealm fighting games.
Yeah, both of us do.
I liked Mortal Kombat. Mortal Kombat 9 was great. Mortal Kombat 10 I didn't think it was quite as good, but Mortal Kombat 9, that was a cheat, right? Because they were literally mining like Mortal Kombat 1, 2, and 3. Like they were mining like 20 some odd years worth of Mortal Kombat quote unquote dumb mythology, and then making a story mode out of it. But Mortal Kombat is great. Injustice, in my opinion, it's so much better than it has any business being.
I agree with you on that.
But this, oh man, this looks great. This looks absolutely fantastic.
Oh yeah, no, and the stuff that they showed, like, so the big thing storyline wise, is that time travel's back. Like, there's apparently going to be a lot of time travel in the new story mode.
Well, we got the opening prologue. Yeah, they showed the entire opening prologue, which I had kind of forgotten that like Shinnok was the big bad in
10.
X. Yeah, in 10.
And then the end. Well, the ending for Raiden's story mode, or for Raiden's thing, is that he takes Shinnok's head and throws it at evil Liu Kang and evil Katana. On NetherRealm, and he's like, I will fight anyone who, I will not stand for this, and this is, if you come for Earth, this is what'll happen to you, kind of thing. Yeah. And this is basically picking up like right before that scene.
Right. And so Raiden seems like he's a bad guy now, or at least he's infected with rage or something like that.
Which the thing is, like, in the Mortal Kombat games, they've been kind of toying with the idea of turning Raiden and turning other good characters into bad guys. Yeah. So when it happened in 9 and 10 that Liu Kang became evil and all that stuff,
I do not remember 10 even a little bit. I don't even remember what happened at the end of 9. I mean, I played some of 9 just to kind of refresh my memory, but I actually think we were going to play Y2K for Sunday streaming, but I think I'm just going to play Mortal Kombat 10 in the story mode just to remember what the fuck happened in the story mode. Anyway, but it looks like, man, the graphics look so good for this.
So good.
So good. Like
even in the gameplay sections, it looks so good.
Yeah. And all right, so let's get into some of the stuff that they talked about. So let's see. We got a section where they actually showed some gameplay, and then at the actual live event, they showed like more just like straight up one-on-one. Like there's a trailer that's kind of interspersed with other stuff, but okay, so some of the things that are really interesting, they've split the meter now. Yeah. The meter used to be that you had 1 meter, and even in Injustice it was like this, where you had 1 meter that you could use for like, depending on how it was charged, you could either use it for like an escape or like an X-ray attack or like just to supercharge a regular move. But now it's split into a defensive meter and an offensive meter. Yes. That both of those, like, you can use one for charging up offense, one for using it for defense, which I actually think is really cool, because I didn't use that meter very much for defense, because I was always looking to dish out damage. And it looks like they've changed it so that you still kind of have the I guess it would be like X-ray attacks in Mortal Kombat, and then in Injustice it was like the big power attacks, but you can only do that if you are under 30%. Like if you are less than 30% health, then you have unlocked the ability, and it doesn't even seem like I can't tell if it's a meter burn or not. But you can only do it if you're under 30%, which is interesting, because I was playing a bunch of Injustice 2, and just because Injustice, unlike Mortal Kombat, has a thing where it's rounds, right? But Injustice 2 has a thing where it's meters, right? So you have 2 health bars, and then when you beat a character, you have however much of those 2 health bars is left, right? Yeah. So you really kind of get on a roll where you're really just kicking the shit out of the computer. But since it was a meter burn instead of a health thing, you could always just like double down on your advantage by doing the big either X-ray attacks or whatever. Whereas I kind of like the idea that those attacks are limited to you kind of a last ditch, like, yeah. But if you're going up against somebody else and you do that I don't even know if it's an X-ray attack or what they're calling it now.
Yeah,
but
I mean, they're not calling them X-ray attacks because X-ray attacks aren't in the game anymore. Like the attacks are there, but they no longer do X-rays.
Right.
But they seem to have offset that by just making everything 10 times more bloody and 10 times more gory.
Oh my god!
Than it's ever been. Like there's a couple of little quick scenes that I actually kind of feel a little sick looking at. Like I'm just like, oh. That's
yeah.
like I am not squeamish when it comes to video game violence, but
let me just say this: their blood game is on fucking point.
It is.
They are doing a great job with the blood. It's all like darker now, and there's more of it, and. But I like the idea of then you have the risk reward of like, let's say that you're losing a round and you use that attack to get out of there. I'm just going to call them X-rays because that's what they are right now, whatever they're called, the power attacks or whatever. But like you do that attack to try to like get an advantage back. But then if it brings your opponent below 30% health, then now they have the ability to try to turn the tables back on you. I've always liked the way that the NetherRealms fighting happens because it feels less frenetic. It feels a little bit more like, it feels heavier, more deliberate than
I agree with you on that.
Some of the combo stuff.
They also had a trailer that showed off a bunch of the fatalities.
Oh yeah.
They also had a trailer that revealed that the.
Well, wait a minute. Let's talk about those fatalities. We talked about the gore, but like, hachi machi. Baraka's gonna rip your fucking face off. In fact, did you see the full version of that fatality?
Yeah,
where it's like. First, he grabs your face and rips your face off to your screaming skull, and then he grabs the front of your skull and rips that off, and then he fucking gets your brain out and then takes a big bite out of it while it's still thumping on the end of his little arm stick.
Yeah.
What the shit? I like this one where Sonya shoots you into the blades of a helicopter. It just fucking...
Yeah. Oh, yeah, no, the fatalities are crazy. Like, there's also one...
Sorry, Scorpion cuts off your head and then he throws the pike at it and it goes through the mouth and oh my god, I'm sorry, John. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
But there's also like the one for Sub-Zero where he like uses a double to stab you and then he rips your spine out with your skull and then impales your skull on the statue as well.
Upside down.
It's all fucking crazy.
Or Scorpion tears you and just like a Looney Tune cuts you in half with the hell chain. Yeah, I don't know. All of this okay.
I'll be honest. I did not expect this much to be shown at this reveal.
No, it wasn't very long either. It was only like 30 or 40 minutes.
No, there was
so.
a goof where Ed Boon, I think, was talking and kept saying that this is a direct sequel to 9.
Oh,
and then afterwards, someone had to come out and be like, he meant 10, by the way.
It was 10, not 9. Yeah. It was actually really funny because when they were doing the fighting and he was doing voiceover, it's like whoever was running their live show kept cutting back to a 2-shot where it was like him on stage and then the fighting on the other side. And every time they cut to him was when he stopped talking. And so he was just standing there not saying anything. And they were like, all right, just put the gameplay back on. You know what? There's a few other things to talk about in here, but what I could definitely say is that the end result is that everything that I see here is like 100 thumbs up, and I'm ready for it because there's not anything here where I'm just like, wow, it looks like they've fucked up. In fact, I don't even see. They showed a roster. They showed Sub-Zero and Scorpion, Raiden, Baraka,
Sonya,
and then Scarlet.
Yeah, Scarlet.
I think that was it.
And then the new guy.
Oh yeah, whose name I've already forgotten. It is
Garrus.
Yeah. But I'm wondering if they're going to bring back. Again, I can't remember anything that happened in Mortal Kombat 10. But like in Mortal Kombat 10 was like the Mortal Kombat babies, right? Because it was like Sonya's kid, Johnny Cage's kid, and Jax's kid, and like Kung Lao's kid. Like it was all the teenage offspring of the Mortal Kombat fighters. And I didn't see any of them in
didn't
here.
even see Johnny Cage.
Yeah. I mean, hell, Scarlet was a DLC character from 9.
Yeah.
Like, that's where she showed up at first.
Which I think is why Boone said 9 is because he was also talking about Scarlet being from 9. And then he immediately went to talk about how the game is a sequel to 10, but accidentally said 9.
Yep. Let's talk about Garrus that we saw a little bit.
They did a whole Garrus reveal where they show like his fighting, and it's very clear he's tied to this the big baddie in this game, which is going to be someone who controls time or whatever.
Yeah,
and it's very clear he's like as he moves, like the sands of time are like falling off of him.
Yeah,
and then like he can do like weird rewind abilities. It looks like
and teleportation and stuff like that. He's also big. Like he's a big dude. And his hits, I mean, he reminds me a little bit of like who was
he's kind of got a little bit of a Sub-Zero except with sand instead of
I was just thinking the hits on him remind me of Kotal Khan from X, right? Who was just like a real big beefy I mean everybody in Mortal Kombat's beefy, right? But like man, he seems beefy. And he just like the fatality that they show with him was him just like punching chunks out of people, right? Like he seems like a very I don't know. He actually seems like a character that I would like quite a bit because in spite of the fact that I usually don't go for like the big characters, I like the kind of like zone advantage and teleportation and kind of sticking people, it
looks like he's got some elements of Raiden, like the teleportation of Raiden mixed with some Sub-Zero abilities, mixed with, like you said, the strength and power of like Kotal Khan, and then like he has these weird time powers as well.
Yeah. I don't know.
He can stop time, and then it looks really cool. I think it's a really interesting character that I definitely want to see more of.
Yeah. I'm afraid that I don't have a whole lot to say as far as just like, oh man, 8 details that you missed from that Mortal Kombat reveal. They also talked about, it looks like they're bringing a lot of the equipment system over from Injustice.
Yeah, so that you can actually, which I think this is also tying into the game, to the story, because while they didn't show it, it was kind of briefly, you could see it in like one of the trailers where they kind of show the whole game as a whole. It looks like your character may be fighting past incarnations of characters.
Oh, yeah.
So like you'll see Mortal Kombat 1 Liu Kang fighting him or whatnot.
What I actually really liked about it though was that when they showed that, I'm trying to see if I can find it in the live stream, when they showed that kind of equipment section, it was like it was divided into, like they showed it for Scorpion, and it's like he had let's see if I can find it here. He had like mask and katana and his spear that were actually like giving you like gameplay bonuses.
Yeah.
But then there was also a whole section that was called K Cosmetics that it seems like they may have figured out that like we don't all want to have a super hot pink Superman because that's the equipment that we got, right? Like that you can make your character, that there's some stuff that you can subtly change that will actually affect the way that the gameplay happens, but then there's like just straight up cosmetics make it look the way you want.
So that you can also make it all look cohesive.
Right. And in fact, and actually there's like slots, there's like augments and stuff that you can add onto these, which I gotta say I was really happy with the equipment system in Injustice 2 because it gave me a reason to keep playing to like I want to level up my fucking swamp thing to level 20. So if they add all that stuff that was in Injustice 2
and then improve on it
and Mortal Kombat it up, man.
Yeah.
Yes. Put it in my...
No, I'm totally on board for all of this. I think it all looks great. And, everything I saw at this thing, I mean, there was only one thing that did give me a little hesitation.
What's that?
Which is
the last thing we haven't talked about yet?
They announced who will be doing the voice of Sonya Blade.
Woo!
Former MMA fighter turned WWE wrestler Ronda Rousey.
Yep.
Will be doing the voice of Sonya Blade, and her voice acting is about what you would expect.
It's weird because I'm like, when they announced that, and I was like, oh, right, I forgot that sometimes developers will just be like, look at the celebrity that we got to play this character. And I'm like, I don't give a fuck about who plays Sonya Blade. I'm not like, oh, man, they better get back. Who even played Sonya in the last 4 games?
Well, in the last game, it was... Katie Sackhoff, if I remember correctly.
Oh, really?
It was either Katie Sackhoff or the lady who played also from Battlestar Galactica, the lady that played the blonde, the hallucination of Dr.
the Cylon lady.
The Cylon lady.
But was she Sonya or was she
was Sonya.
Sonya's daughter?
No, she was Sonya.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, the nice thing is that fortunately voice acting, I mean, unless Sonya is a huge part of the story, hopefully it won't be like horrible. But yes, I do also agree with you that like that just seems like a PR stunt more than a get the right person.
And and that's fine. I actually don't mind it. I just don't think that she's the best actor.
Right.
Which, a lot of people I feel like it's an insult to voice actors to be like, well, she doesn't have to be the best actor. She just has to be a good voice actor. And I was like, well, she's not good at that either. Let's
she
be honest.
She also had a lot of talking about how, like, well, when I was a kid, Sonya was my favorite. I am Sonya Blade. Like, there's a whole thing in the trailer that she had where I was just like, you need to fucking stop talking. What do you mean? She just said on that stage, like, if Mortal Kombat was a real thing and they came to pick up fighters, I would be the one that they took. And I'm just like, what are you talking about? Please stop. I mean, I understand. Ronda Rousey could kick my ass 6 ways from Tuesday. Let's not, but that doesn't make her a good voice actress. And I don't know. We are, or at least I am completely speculating based on, like, I haven't played this game yet. I don't know. Maybe it's fine.
Yeah.
But it seemed like the sort of thing where it was like, why do I care about this?
Yeah. But like I said, I definitely do like everything I've seen so far.
Yeah.
I like Scarlet, the fact that all of her fighting is like, she has like these tiny sais, like these daggers that she then like cuts herself and then bleeds onto them to make them turn them into swords.
Yep.
And that sometimes when she's using that ability, like blood actually scatters everywhere. And I love the way it looks. I love the fact that it lasts. Like, it's not something that lands on the ground and disappears.
Yeah.
It'll actually stay on the ground.
Yeah, it's such a good, I mean, like, they just, everything I see here, I'm like, this is all great. I don't have any problem with any of this. This is all wonderful, and I'm really glad that we're getting a Mortal Kombat game this year. And I
am so happy for this. I know they said there's going to be like more announcements as the weeks go on. They'll probably announce more characters, because I'm pretty sure the characters that they've announced are not the only characters. I mean, there were other characters in the fucking trailer that they showed that they didn't announce yet.
Oh yeah,
because there was Liu Kang and Kung Lao and Shang Tsung and it
is interesting though, because I feel like the fact there is one thing I think that we could probably extrapolate, which is that every one of these trailers ends with a promo for get Shao Kahn as a pre-order bonus at GameStop.
Yeah,
which
it's you just pre-order, and it's not just a GameStop thing. It's just a pre-order.
But it makes me think that Shao Kahn is not in the game. Right?
Yeah, no, he's probably not. No,
I don't even know if he's dead in the storyline.
I mean, he might be. I think he's dead.
Okay.
In the storyline,
they also have a collector's edition that they trotted out. It's just a big scorpion head.
Yeah. Because cool. I think I think Shao Kahn, if I remember correctly, was only in 10 arbitrarily, because in 9
does he get killed at the end of 9?
Yeah, because they let him win, and when he wins, by winning he breaks the rules of Mortal Kombat.
Interesting. Okay.
And it turns on him.
I've forgotten so much about that
happened at the end of 9.
It's strange that Mortal Kombat has become so convoluted that I can't remember the story for Mortal Kombat anymore.
Yeah. I know, but I love fighting game stories, so I do remember stuff. Like
I was even playing Mortal Kombat 9. Like, I installed it on Steam for a thing I want to do, and then I ended up playing it, and I was just like, oh wow, yeah. In fact, it's funny because Mortal Kombat X and Mortal Kombat 9, they have aged, right? Like, you look at them and they're just like, oh, well, this isn't really quite as good as I remember it. But I don't know. This all looks absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I think it looks great.
Can't wait.
I am so happy.
Can't wait.
I'm so happy for this. I think it's I'm hyped. And yeah, I'll probably pre-order it. I'm probably going to wait till closer to April. I'll probably pre-order it. If it has a DLC thing, I'll probably buy the DLC as well, because I'm going to play the fucking shit out of it.
You know what? I will actually break one of my rules here in saying that, like, I will probably get the edition that has the season pass, because of every company that has had season passes. The reason I don't normally like season passes is because you can't tell what's going to happen. Like, we were talking about how Far Cry 5's DLC, like, it looked very promising, but then when I played it, I was just like, I'm not really into this.
Yeah.
But you know what? Mortal Kombat 9, Injustice, Mortal Kombat 10, Injustice 2's DLC. These are all fantastic character rosters. 10 was what? Alien and Predator and Jason and Michael Myers, or no, Leatherface?
Leatherface.
And, the Teenage Mutant fucking Ninja Turtles and Hellboy in Injustice. Like, yeah. NetherRealm is fucking on point. I mean, like, I would maybe appreciate a little bit more story DLC from them, but the thing is that NetherRealm's games, unlike a lot of the other ones, like, I don't know, like, I never cared about playing Street Fighter more than just finishing the story, but, like, every time I install Injustice 2 for quote unquote a thing I want to do, I just end up playing the fucking multiverse. I'm just like, I'm just going to play multiverse for 5 minutes. 8 hours later, I'm still like, I need to get Bane to level 25 because this thing expires in 4 hours. I got to get the epic Bane gear that they've got in here. So yeah, I for one,
so hyped.
Welcome.
I am so hyped. I mean, I was already on board for it when they announced Mortal Kombat 11. I was like, I'm gonna buy that. Like literally, I was just like, they announced it. I'm gonna buy that. They have never steered me wrong.
Yep.
And then I see this, and I'm like, do I pre-order it now or do I wait till closer? Like literally, that's how the conversation changed.
Yep.
Do I give them my money right now because I know I'm gonna? Because again, when I pre-order stuff, it's not because I want the pre-order bonuses. It's because I want to pay for it now because I have the money now.
Right. You don't want to get into a situation where you're just like, fuck, I've got $55.
Yeah. So it's like, do I want to pre-order it now or do I want to wait? And I'm like, I can wait a little bit. It's April. I can at least wait till my tax return comes out.
And then you know what? We're going to get to see all of the new things that start with a K instead of a C.
Yeah.
You know? So there we go. Speaking of things that don't start with the K, let's talk about Assassin's Creed that starts with the C. They should just change it because Mortal Kombat's coming out. So it'd be Assassin's KREED.
What would you say if
no
Assassin's Creed character was one of the DLC characters?
I'd say you broke your streak and you suck now. NetherRealm, boo. No, I'm just kidding. I would still play Mortal Kombat, but if you
would murder whoever the protagonist.
I don't know. I'm trying to decide whether it would be worse if it was like Ezio or Noctis. Maybe if they spelled Noctis' name with a K.
Oh, that would be hilarious if one of the DLC characters was Noctis.
Was Noctis? Yep.
It's just like,
Noctis.
goddamn you, Square Enix.
Yep. Anyway, let's talk about Ubisoft.
All right.
So the second Assassin's Creed DLC came out. And okay, spoiler alert for the Assassin's Creed second DLC. I'm not going to play it, but if you're going to play it, I'm going to talk about details of the storyline. So, I don't know if you know this or how much.
I think I know exactly what you're talking about, and I get it.
Yeah,
from both sides.
So Ubisoft, when you play Assassin's Creed. Which one is this?
Odyssey.
I was going to say Origins, but I knew that wasn't right. Odyssey.
It's a different O word.
Yeah. You were able to,
the one where you have the cap that you can throw to take control of.
Oh, Odyssey. Yes. Yeah.
Sorry.
In Assassin's Creed Odyssey, you can make a lot of character decisions with your character. You can choose different voice lines, different dialogue options.
You can choose between male and female.
You can even choose whether they're into dudes or ladies, right?
Yeah.
Regardless of whether they are dudes or ladies, right? You can do whatever you want to. Make the character your own, right? Lots of games do that. So apparently in this second story DLC, the game forces your character to basically have sex with the opposite sex, regardless of whether your character, whether you've been playing the entire game with your character as gay or straight or whatever, your character will be having sex with somebody of the opposite sex, apparently to carry on the bloodline or something like that.
Yeah, which kind of makes sense. Like I said, from a story standpoint, right. I get what they're doing because it's very much your character has to procreate,
right?
Because your bloodline is
the bloodline. Right.
It continues. It won't continue if you're not.
Right. So I'm sure that everybody out there can imagine that for anybody who actually really got into the game and then were playing their character as gay, that that was upsetting to them to then be forced into a heterosexual situation. And you know what? I'm with you where I understand the story beat, but I also understand if you're going to tell people, you can play it the way you want to.
I understand from both sides.
Yeah.
So,
of course, let us always not forget that this is not the first time that Ubisoft has done some dumb boneheaded bullshit. But they came out and basically said oh yeah, our bad, sorry. We just, we're trying to explain the story part. There are probably ways that we could have done this that didn't involve doing it that way. Et cetera, et cetera. And this is just...
Yeah, because I think I read somewhere where prior to this scene, the character that your character procreates with makes advances towards your character, and you have the choice of either playing along
them
or completely rebuffing them. And apparently some of the choices are complete revulsion.
Right.
Stop, and then that person's still trying to
Mac on you,
and you're like, no, get the fuck away or I will stab you.
Right. And
then suddenly there's a cutscene where your character's like, oh, I love you, you're so my, let's go to my bedchamber and do this thing.
Right.
And then suddenly, oh, someone's pregnant.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's kind of a jarring.
I feel like it was the sort of thing that you could just not explain, Ubisoft. You didn't have to make that a plot point. Like maybe when you were thinking about the storyline, it would have been easy enough to just go like, let's just not mention that. Like somebody may be like, I'm going to make a 45-minute YouTube essay on why the plot holes are, because if you're gay in Assassin's Creed, then how's your bloodline continue? And then you could just ignore them and be like, whatever. I don't know. It just seems like it just seems like a real Ubisoft like didn't think their shit through situation. So.
Yeah. Also, I mean, in Assassin's Creed Origins, because again, I haven't played Odyssey I haven't played much of Odyssey because I was bored out of my fucking mind with it.
Yeah. Me too.
In Assassin's Creed Origins, you're not using the DNA of an ancestor. You're using the DNA of the actual dead person whose DNA you got.
Right.
So is that not what's happening in...
I don't know. I never got far enough into the game because it was boring as fuck.
Okay.
So I think that...
I mean, they literally could have explained it as, oh, you also had a brother that lived...
Right.
That procreated and...
You trained their kid. Whatever. Yeah. There were a lot of different ways that you could have handled it. Well, this is from the Game Informer article that I'm reading this off of. Basically says, Assassin's Creed has often had protagonists that eventually have children due to the way the game's DNA memory setup work. Odyssey was intended to be a little different, however, playing with the mutability of DNA and using that for justification for why there were split protagonists playing the same game in the first place. So I don't really know because, again, I didn't get to the point where you went to the modern day stuff because I'm bored of Assassin's Creed as a franchise at this point. But
I'm not bored of the idea of Assassin's Creed, but I just found that game boring.
I don't want to play, like when we were talking about Red Dead, one of the things that I thought that Red Dead did very well was that Red Dead in a lot of ways, outside of like, don't at me, all right? I understand that there's some ways that you could talk about this, but in a lot of ways, Red Dead didn't waste my time by making me find like 100 lighters or birds or bullshit. And the thing about Assassin's Creed was that Assassin's Creed was like big, but I didn't really want to do any of the things that they wanted me to do.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of ended up getting bored. But in any case, I don't know if they're actually going to be like patching this or doing something different with it, or if it's just apologize and move on.
I in all honesty, I feel like they should just apologize and move on.
Well, they have apologized, and they are, so they'll probably just be moving on. That's the video game way. Well, speaking of Red Dead Redemption 2, this is a bizarre story.
I agree.
The Pinkertons, the actual Pinkerton detective agency,
still exist,
which
is the most bizarre thing that I've discovered from this article is that the Pinkerton Detective Agency is still a thing.
Yep, Pinkerton Consulting and Investigations sent a cease and desist order to Rockstar, basically, and let's see what if I can find some quotes here. Basically saying that they're like not authorized to use the Pinkerton quote unquote brand and that they want money. And Rockstar wrote back saying that like this takes place in the past. Your organization existed in the past. You cannot own the past. No. Now, I think that it's really interesting because of all the people in the world, John, if I was the Pinkerton stupid jerks, I would be like, you know what? We could probably manhandle some companies, but you can't manhandle Rockstar. They got too much fucking money and too many goddamn lawyers.
Well,
I mean, Rockstar's lawyers have been fending this shit off for decades.
It's also, if I'm not mistaken, there was something else that recently used the Pinkertons, and they didn't go after them at all.
Well, I mean, BioShock Infinite, we were like a Pinkerton, ex-Pinkerton agent.
Or it was either that they didn't go after them at all, or they did, and they actually lost the lawsuit.
Yeah.
I can't remember what it was. But yeah, I think if I remember correctly, I was reading something that said that they had previously gone after a different company for the kind of a similar thing, and basically the courts went nah.
I think that it's I think it's interesting because I think that it does point out that like the way that I don't think they will win at all, and I think it's because it has already been shown that you can't casually defend your trademark, right? Yeah. You must aggressively defend, like, encroaching upon your brand in order to basically have a leg to stand on. when you go to court, right? You can't pick and choose. You can't say, like, it's okay for these guys, we don't care about them, but these guys we're going to sue. You got to kind of sue everybody, because otherwise you're not just like aggressively, you're not defending your stuff. Let's see. Here's a list of appearance in popular media. Red Dead Redemption. There was a Doctor Who book. I'm trying to see if any of these are video games. They're in Titanic was an X. Anyway, they haven't been in a lot of stuff. It's also, to me, I think painfully obvious that they want a chunk of the big Red Dead Redemption 2 money.
Of course,
right?
they do.
They're hoping to just get a payoff to get to go away, right? That Rockstar and Take-Two will basically just pay them and to go away. But I think they underestimate. Like, remember Rockstar got sued by Lindsay Lohan because she said that the cover girl on GTA was her.
Like the Rockstar is they are used to getting sued.
They are not a wilting flower that you're going to bully into submission.
Yeah,
they've got shitloads, literal shitloads of money. Speaking of shitloads of money, I think this might have actually happened last week, but we didn't have a chance to talk about Gearbox and Randy Pitchford.
Randy Pitchford.
So this is maybe the most bizarre thing that I've heard in a long time. So apparently Wade Callender used to be Gearbox's former in-house lawyer, and he was let go, and when he left the company, Gearbox filed suit against him for fraud and breach of fiduciary duty. At this point, Callender sued them back for so Gearbox says that Callender misused the corporate credit card for going on vacation, trying to get abs, trying to get a six-pack was one of the things that was specifically like laid out as a thing that he misused companies' funds to do. I use Rage Select funds to try to get a six-pack of beer. Sorry.
Womp.
Yeah. So later, then Callender filed his own lawsuit, alleging that he had a bunch of verbal contracts and real estate things that hadn't been fulfilled. But there is a weird thing that when you do a public filing, there's like information inside of this public filing that is now public record. And so some of the stuff this Callender guy is saying about Randy Pitchford. Okay, let's start with the one that is less bizarre and more just regular. And that is that Randy Pitchford essentially stole $12 million of the advance that Take-Two gave Gearbox when they were making Borderlands. I think the first Borderlands, or maybe it was Borderlands 2, and basically transferred it to his own company, and then like depressed the amount of raises and in-house like funds that were made available to Gearbox in order to essentially pay back that $12 million that he just siphoned into his own company right off the top. So there's that. That's not great. But the single most strange thing that I cannot tell you that this is, I couldn't make this shit up, is that apparently Randy Pitchford left a USB drive at a Medieval Times restaurant that had a bunch of Gearbox financial data on it, along with his pornography collection, which Callender says is underage. And Randy has come back saying it wasn't underage. It's an 18-year-old cam girl that I saved a bunch of the cam shows that she did on a USB drive that I left at a Medieval Times. And that when they retrieved the USB drive from the Medieval Times restaurant, where an employee apparently found it, plugged it in, looked at it, and then contacted them to try to give it back or some such variation, the company wanted to make a copy of the drive in case the information that was on there was ever leaked, and then they would be able to compare it to what was on the drive to know where it came from. And Pitchford apparently said, no, you must destroy the entire drive immediately, and they did. What? Like, I mean, damn, Randy, like you're really making this. And then apparently there was a quote. He was on like a podcast talking about the porn on his memory stick, where he said that one of the sex acts that the girl on the cam show did was so awe-inspiring that as an amateur magician, he saved the show because he wanted to try to figure out how she had physically performed the acts that were done. And it was like, what in the world are we even talking about here? Randy Pitchford's porno that he left at a medieval times? Like, what story is this? So I don't really know that I have very much to say outside of the fact that I just wanted everybody to know that Randy Pitchford apparently keeps his financial documents as porno on the same thumb drive. Apparently takes it with him to medieval times when he's going to go watch the night.
Wouldn't you?
I keep all of my porno on USB drives, and I always take them with me when I go places.
Especially to medieval times.
Especially to medieval times, yes. What in the world? That's nuts.
Because you never know.
You never know when you're going to need either financial documents or pornography.
At medieval times.
Or a combination, too. Maybe you're having dinner with a potential client, and you want to show them the spreadsheets about how much your company is growing them, and then once, you guys have had a few meads, and everybody's all loosened up, and you're just like, I want to show you what this girl can do, Dave. So just sit back, grab a turkey leg.
This magic pong ball trick.
I'm going to yes. Make sure that none of the kids behind us can see. That's why you want to sit at the top row of medieval times, so that when the kids are looking
you buy your tickets ahead of time, and you can specify where.
I've never been. I don't know. I don't know the protocol.
Once. I went once.
Okay.
I went when I was in California last year. So
anyway,
it's actually a lot of fun.
There you go.
No, I didn't take any porn with me. So
you didn't take any porno with you?
Maybe I did it wrong, but I
wonder if people would buy
no USB drives at all.
I wonder if people would buy a T-shirt that just said something about like I look at my porn at medieval times. I'm sure I get sued by medieval times for doing that, but
I would not buy a T-shirt that said I look at porn at medieval times.
I think it'd be interesting just to do it so that people were like, "What?" and then you're like, "Hey, it's a conversation starter." Speaking of starting conversations, let's start a conversation about how EA sucks. Oh, EA, let us count the ways that you suck. 1, Battlefront 2. 2, so apparently, okay, this is a weird story. Apparently, like, remember when they shut down Visceral?
Yeah.
Remember when they took Amy Hennig's Visceral Star Wars game and they shuttered it, and then they announced that they were going to be retasking the game so that it had more of like a games as service model, and it
giant
was,
open world single player game.
So apparently they moved that game from Visceral to EA Montreal, and this week they canceled that game too. So
and then they said that they retasked that same team to make a smaller scale game that can be made more quickly.
Yes.
And be released by 2020.
Mm-hmm.
So this makes the third Star Wars game that's been canceled by EA, right? Like was 1313 EA, or was that before EA?
Oh, that's a good question. Was it EA? I think it was. Wasn't it? Let's just take a look. Let's not talk out of our butts. But yes.
I talk out of my ass all the time. The listener should be totally understanding of that.
Just so that you know, let's see. That was going to be developed by Lucas. This is developer LucasArts, publisher LucasArts. So
okay, this is before.
I just have to wonder. They signed this 10-year exclusivity deal with.
And how many years are we into that 10-year deal?
Like almost 5, I think.
And we've only gotten 2 fucking Star Wars games, and they're both online multiplayer fucking games?
Yeah. Well, for me, it's more of a question of, do you think that the mouse is happy with this arrangement? Because Star Wars, by all intents and purposes, should be a fucking lucrative as shit
I agree. So, I don't know if you read it, but Kotaku, who actually broke the story, actually had a really good article about not so much about the cancellation of this game, but the state of Star Wars. I think it's that other article that you see on the side if you're scrolling past.
Oh,
with the troubled, where it's interesting where they actually
decade of Star Wars games.
Yeah, where they actually talk about it, and it is like apparently who's the guy? It's Andrew Wilson.
Andrew Wilson.
Apparently, the rumors are now when they've asked, like people have been like, no, he's totally okay with it. This Star Wars deal happened before Andrew Wilson got in charge, and apparently the rumor is that Andrew Wilson fucking hates this deal. That Andrew Wilson does not like licensed games, and he really wants to push original IPs and things like that. And that's and since he's gotten in charge, that's what you've seen a lot of. You've seen a lot more EA EA-owned IPs get sequels. You've seen a lot of more original content being created under EA. And apparently, this deal of Star Wars is the thing that he's fucking hated. And apparently, that's been the reason shit gets canceled so quickly, is because he just does not fucking care. And he has no qualms with it. Like, he wants the contract to be done and them to spend as little money working on it as possible.
That's so strange because I mean, I don't know. I guess
because again, it was something that was put into place before he got in charge. But
I guess it's weird to me because, well, it was Kotick before him, right? Was it Kotick before Andrew Wilson?
So. Yeah,
that we all hated for years. But I mean, EA was doing more interesting stuff when Kotick was around than they are now. Like, it's just a whole, they fucked up Andromeda, right? And I mean, like, I don't know. We'll see. We got an open beta coming coming up for Anthem, but like, it seems like all EA wants to do is sell sports games with microtransactions in them. Like, they don't want to do any of the rest of this because Star Wars is a license to print fucking money.
I agree.
There's no reason that you couldn't be making a space game and a new Dark Forces game and blah blah. I mean, or even
I feel like there are two problems. One, Frostbite is garbage.
Okay.
It's for open world game, like, it's actually been said by developers at EA to make an open world game using, like, if you're using Frostbite for Battlefield, if you're using Frostbite for smaller games,
right,
that it's fine. But it is not meant to work in an open world environment. It's not meant to, like, the bigger you make the game, the more problems it has.
Sure.
And they don't know, the people who created Frostbite are just like, do whatever you can to make it work. Like, they don't really provide any help, apparently.
Yeah.
Like, apparently that's the reason that a lot of the developers on Andromeda actually blame Andromeda's problems on the Frostbite engine, because they had to basically almost rewrite the engine to work.
Right.
From scratch. Like, the engine just is not good, and EA is very and Andrew Wilson specifically is like, we're going to make games, and we're going to make games under the Frostbite engine.
Right.
Financially, that makes sense because they don't have to pay licensing fees for Frostbite. Whereas if they were to make the game in Unity or Unreal, they'd have to pay licensing rights to competitors.
Sure.
To use those engines, and totally understandable. But it's just that engine is not built to do what they keep trying to force people to do.
So I like Frostbite. I actually think the Frostbite looks really good, and I think that everything that you said is, 100% correct. But what it comes down to for me is like, so make a first person shooter, right? Don't make a open world game. Quit making open world games and make a narrative driven game where you're going through levels, right? If Frostbite accelerates at levels, then make a level based game. You don't have to have everything be fucking driving the Mako around on a planet, right? And I think that Star Wars fans will lap this shit up. That's what's like. It's like the Marvel thing. How there's like 8 Marvel games that are being developed, but there hasn't been hardly any of them. Where I'm like, why? What is wrong with you people? Like, put lightsabers in a game and let people swing them around, and the nerds will buy it. I'll buy it. Everybody will buy it. Like, I just don't understand. You could just remake, like, Dark Forces. You could remake the original Dark Forces in Frostbite, and I think a lot of people would buy that. I think it would sell relatively well. But
the other thing that they're saying, and this is actually goes back to Ragtag, which is the code name for the game that Visceral was working on, is that the other problem is that because it's licensed by Disney, anytime they wanted to create something, they'd have to do the art design for it. Then they'd have to send it to Disney. Someone at Disney would have to say, well, nope, that can't work because X and try again.
Right.
And so, and like literally for every little thing. So some, they're spending 6 months on how a guy's t-shirt looks. And they can't make the fucking game because they can't move past this approval.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest problem with the Star Wars and why it takes so long to actually develop a game for that, is because they have to constantly send everything to Lucas, and then Lucas takes their time. Lucasfilms or LucasArts or Disney at this point would just take their time on getting back to them and be like, oh yeah, this thing that you've been working on for 3 months, and you've probably been working on for another 2 months since you sent it to us, scrap it. We don't like it.
You know, what'd be great is if they well, I don't know if BioWare will be around for very long after Anthem, but like remake KOTOR in Frostbite.
Well, that was actually the rumor of what they were trying to do is do a KOTOR style game in a giant open world.
Yeah.
That's what just got canceled.
Okay. All right, EA, I don't understand you, because to me it's like if somebody handed you a printing press that made cash and then you were just like, it's too hard to make this press run. It's like, yes, but you get money out of it. And obviously you want money, so make it work. Like, hire people to make it work.
But again, it goes back to, and I think this is where, this is also where Andrew Wilson has an issue with the deal, is that they have to share that money.
Yeah. With
Disney. And he doesn't want to share the money. He wants them to have all the money. Because we all know EA wants all the fucking money.
Yeah, it's not enough to get some money. You have to have all money. Yeah. Well, if that's the case, then like I really hope that in 5 years from now that they fucking take it away and give it to, I don't know, Activision, Ubisoft.
I honestly
Square
feel like
Enix. I don't care.
I honestly feel like they should have just not done exclusivity. They should have just said, "Hey,
we'll license it.
We're licensing it to you to make games. Pitch them to us. Make them as you want them. But you do not have exclusive rights. We're going to go to other companies as well."
Yeah.
Because I feel like that is better than this thing where we get two Battlefield games, one that everyone liked but kind of wish there was more of, but didn't feel like it was a complete game, and then another one that everyone just fucking hated, and then you release nothing else.
Yeah.
And then everything else you're working on, you keep fucking canceling.
Apparently, though, that Visceral, or that, not Visceral, the Titanfall guys, Respawn game is supposed to come out like this year, later this year. So
yeah, it has a name apparently that someone actually mentioned what the name for it was.
I was like Jedi Order or something like that.
Something like that.
Well, speaking of people who should be making lots of money but don't, it wouldn't be a week of the Rage Select podcast unless we had something to say about Fallout 76. Apparently, the latest in Fallout 76 news is that people have found a way into a dev room that is in the Fallout 76 map that contains, like a dev room does, everything that's in the game. Every model that's in the game. Every item and blueprint and power armor, including some stuff that I think hasn't even been released yet. And one human NPC, the only one in the game, are all in this one room that people have found a way into. So that happened, and you go, oh, well, I mean, I guess that kind of sucks, right? Because, like, you know, if people could go into this room and get everything, they don't have a reason to grind in the game, right?
Yeah.
Apparently people get banned immediately if the flag for being in this room is turned to on. And then apparently there have been some rumors that Bethesda has then sent emails to the people that they banned asking them to explain to them how they got in here. I kind of feel like patch it out of the game world, like patch it out, or maybe just like make it so that everything in there is not interactable anymore. Like there has to be, they build the world out of individual pieces, right? There's got to be a way to, so that like shrubs are set to either like lootable or not lootable. But like, I don't know, to me, it just seems like you left this shit in the game, people found it, and then they're getting banned for going in there is, again, not a good look. But then, you know, last week the story was that they were asking people to write personal essays about why mods were bad in order to get unbanned. So, lay sigh. Sigh, Fallout 76. Sigh. I don't know. You got anything for this?
I don't. I am so over Fallout 76.
You didn't even really like Fallout, right?
I love Fallout.
Oh yeah.
I just, you know, I have again, I love Fallout 1. I love Fallout 2. I love the idea of Fallout. I love when I was playing, and I say this every time. Happens every time when I played Fallout 3. I was so distracted by the fact that I was playing Fallout and with the story of the game that when I beat Fallout 3 and I was like, that was a good game, I liked it, and I stopped playing it, and then I was like, oh, I'm going to go play it again because, you know, it's Fallout 3 and I love Fallout. Then I started to realize it's a Bethesda game, and I started noticing all the faults with the game because I'm no longer enamored with the story, and I was like, oh, this game is actually kind of garbage.
Okay.
And then kind of the same thing happened with 4, except I didn't beat 4. I know what happens at the end of 4 because I've seen someone beat it, but I've played through 4 and then I stopped playing, and then I went back to playing, and I was like, oh yeah, right, Bethesda.
Well, also you can see the end of 4 coming like a million miles
I knew the
away.
end of 4 before the fucking prologue ended.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, let's move on to some good news. So apparently last week we had a story where Destiny 2 had a like this raid, and that ended with a puzzle, and it was supposed to be a thing where people were working together. And then the puzzle was too hard, and so they just opened up the answer for it, right?
Yeah.
And then this week it came out that apparently there was a series of hints to the puzzle that were put out there, and due to some errors, one of the hints was not released to the players. So they were trying to solve this puzzle, and one line of information was like missing from it.
Oh.
So
the reason no one could solve it is because they
literally didn't have all the information. So last week they put that information out there, and guess what? They solved it, no problem. It wasn't a big deal. So
yeah, because I do remember them saying we didn't think people would have this much of a problem solving this, so it's weird, but they didn't. So I guess we overestimated our.
No, it's nice to see that this was the way that this went down, was that they couldn't solve it, so they immediately unlocked that puzzle so that people could finish off their paid content, and only then realized that they should have just fixed it. Like, yeah, I'm you know what? As per last week, I am going to say that it would be really interesting if in 6 to 8 months, without Activision breathing down their necks, Destiny 2 got good when Bungie is left to their own devices, but I don't know. We'll wait and see, because it's still weird to me, though. It's still weird to me that Bungie got to leave Activision and take Destiny with them. So,
yeah, I will say that story, because I know that's not a thing we're talking about, because you probably talked about it last week. I did think it was pretty hilarious. There's a Penny Arcade comic where it's a firefighter saving a person from a burning building, and the guy's like, "No, we got to go back. We got to go back." And he's like, "What's your name, kid?" And he goes, "My name's Bungie. We got to go back. Blizzard is still in there." It's literally, and then it turns the building, and it says Activision on the side of the building.
Nice, yeah. Let's see. We've got a few other things, some trailers, and then we'll get out of here. Let's see. We got this was already known, but apparently there's a schedule. Kingdom Hearts 3 has like an epilogue movie that's literally not on the disc.
There's like two.
There's two, and they're coming like the Wednesday and Thursday after it comes out. Yeah. There will be downloaded.
So there's like one clip that you can only watch. There's an epilogue that you can only watch if you've beaten the game.
Yeah.
And then there's a secret video that you can only watch if you've beaten the game and played the epilogue.
Okay. Interesting. I do think this is an interesting way, though, the idea of like not spoiling the end of a game by literally not putting it on the disc.
Well, I also think it's, hilarious because, you have the people who are going to buy the game. Maybe they don't have internet. They're going to play it and they're not going to understand the ending. Yep. And then you have the people who are going to buy the game and they're going to play it and they're going to see the epilogue and they're going to see the secret video and they're still not going to understand the ending. So, everyone wins.
Yeah. Nobody's going to understand. Actually, I think I might have finally found a Kingdom Hearts aficionado to come on to explain all the bullshit to me.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. I think I might have found the right person, but I'm still working on it. Let's see. Valve is making a bunch of changes to Steam in 2019. Apparently, they just had a blog post where they're talking about it. Mostly seems like they're just opening up the store in China. They have a whole thing called a bullet point here called store discoverability. We're working on a new recommendation engine based on machine learning that can match players to games based on their individual tastes. Algorithms are only a part of our discoverability solution. However, so we're building more broadcasting and curating features and are constantly assessing the overall design of the store.
Machine learning.
Yeah.
That always works out.
Sure enough. Yeah, it's worked so well. Where has it worked? Nowhere. Nowhere is the answer. You fucking you making shitload of money, Steam. Hire interns to look at the games before you put them out. Or I don't know. Epic. They just put out a patch for Hades on Epic, and I was just like, oh right, Epic. I think you can get What Remains of Edith Finch for free for a little while.
Nice.
On Epic. I want Epic to eat Steam's lunch, honestly, because Steam is being lazy as lazy fucks about this, and I goddamn can't find anything. And sometimes when I do find something, it's gone out of the Steam store before a few days have even passed. So, let's talk about some trailers. We got a trailer for Days Gone. Remember that game, right?
Yeah, it got pushed back.
With the zombies and such.
Because it was originally supposed to be coming out in February, and now it's March.
Yeah. I kind of feel like this is one of those ones that could really go either way, and that I'm going to have to get my hands on it to know for sure.
Yeah, there's a part of me that looks at these every one of these trailers that comes out. The part of me that looks at it and goes, this could be like a Horizon Zero Dawn style game where it's, you don't know which way it's going to go, but it's going to turn out to be really good.
Right.
And then I'm like, but then there's elements, and it's not something I can point at and go, this is the thing that bothers me. But then there's just elements where I'm just like, I don't know. This could also easily go the other direction and not be good.
You know what direction that is for me? State of Decay.
Yeah.
Is that I get some whiffs of State of Decay, of a really good looking State of Decay off of this, where I'm just like, ooh, it could be not so good. I don't know, but it could be good. But it could be not good.
Yeah.
The fact that whenever I think about the games that I'm most excited about coming out this year, this doesn't enter my mind. That can be reminded
I agree
of
with you
it.
on that.
Like, that's not a good sign.
Yeah.
But who knows? I don't know. It's like they started with that one trailer with the big zombie hordes, but then we haven't seen as many zombie hordes since then. So I don't know. On the other hand, I do like this trailer has the main character riding around on a motorcycle a lot, and I'm just like, I don't know. It kind of looks like zombie Red Dead on a steel horse I ride, wanted dead or alive. So who knows? Also, there's one part in the early part of this trailer where there's a zombie drinking water. So I guess they're like infected and not like the undead. Because there's also a part where they said the cold makes them stronger, and I'm like, how? How does the cold make them stronger? I swear to God, this is the last time we're going to talk about Ace Combat 7 because it comes out the day after we record this, or at least we're going to talk about it on the podcast. We got an Ace Combat 7 open fire launch trailer. I'm still super excited for this, and I don't know why. I literally, at first I was really excited because you could play the game in VR, and I thought you could play the whole game in VR, but it turns out there's just a handful of missions you can play in VR. But I'm still I think it's been so long since I played a flight simulator, John, any flight simulator, that I'm into it. I don't know. It just looks super crisp. It's like, you know how driving games look better than other games because all they have to model is cars instead of people? It kind of reminds me of that, except that you get to shoot at the other things instead of just racing them in a circle. I don't know. Do you have any interest whatsoever in Ace?
No, not really, but I mean, it looks cool.
Yeah, I agree. Let's see.
There's a literal scene in the trailer where it's flying in a city, and there's it's a dilapidated city, and buildings are falling down around the jet, and I'm like, that looks kind of cool.
Yeah.
I'm kind of interested in that, but that's.
I just, it's funny because I feel like this one is also one that could go either way, where I could totally see this ending up being like Armored Core, where it's just too technical and I can't really get into it. But I don't know. We will see. We'll see shortly, actually. By the time that this podcast goes up, we will have already seen on some dojos. Salt and Sanctuary 2 is coming on the Xbox. If you're interested, Salt and Sanctuary is, of course, the Scott Studios take on a Dark Souls game that was, in the words of what's his name from Fury Road, mediocre. It was okay. This is coming out on February 6th, so if you've had an Xbox and you've been waiting to play Salt and Sanctuary, you will get a chance to do so quite soon. It's not a bad game. It's just kind of it's okay. It's all right. And then last trailer that we got this week is for a game called Devotion, which is an upcoming first-person horror game being made by the same people that made Detention that you and I and Amanda played, I believe, on a Sunday stream.
Yeah.
It was a horror, it was a Korean horror game.
Yeah.
And although I don't know there's no subtitles in the trailer that I saw for this, it looks appropriately spooky.
Yeah, it does.
I like the kind of just overall first person wandering around in a weird place aesthetic that's going on.
I get some
here.
PT vibes. I also get some vibes of another game that we played on a Sunday streaming a long time ago that I can't remember the title of.
And neither can I.
yeah. I tried describing it to Jeff, and Jeff was just like, that sounds like something we might have played, but I don't know. But yeah, so I mean, it looks interesting.
Yeah.
I look forward to maybe playing it on a Sunday stream.
Well, I liked Detention quite a bit.
Yeah.
So
no, Detention was really good.
They've got a free credit in my book for, let's figure it out, or for at least one other game. And then I don't know if we actually, do we have a release date on this? February 19th. So not that long.
Not too far away.
Yep. All right, let's wrap it up with a couple of quick ones. I did mention that Hades on the Epic Game Store, the Supergiant Games game, got an update. I actually ended up playing a little bit of it. It's really cool. Like, I kind of like the way that they're a lot more. Oh, I guess just because I follow them on Twitter. So, like, they did an update. It like changed what the main character looks like. It added a bunch of new stuff to the game.
Yeah, because this game was released, but it's kind of like an early access thing, right?
It's totally early access. Yeah. Like it says early access when you boot it up. In fact, I actually managed to get all the way to the end of the second world, and then the game just stops. It basically is like, this is all we've got done for right now. So, but Hades is really good, and it's only been, a month since they released it. Now they've already got a patch out with some new stuff to it. I really like it. I think it's a very charming game. Let's see. Next up, we got Overwatch's Lunar New Year event is going to be coming January 24th. February 18th.
They showed it's a little clip of Soldier 76 with one of those little Chinese
Karate Kid 2 things.
Drums, and then he starts like spinning it really fast and looks around to make sure no one's looking.
Yeah. It's apparently the year of the pig. I would not have known if it wasn't for Overwatch, but if you want any of those costumes,
squeal to your heart's delight, because it's the year of the pig.
Yep, you can jump back in and get it. Night Dive, the company that is doing the System Shock remaster, I believe, wants to remake Dark Forces. They put out a tweet saying, "Hey, at Disney, can we at Night Dive Studio do a remaster of Dark Forces, please?" Signed everyone who likes this tweet, and apparently it got some traction. Like it got retweeted and some likes and stuff like that. I have to say that Night Dive, I appreciate their
effort.
I appreciate their enthusiasm. I think they were the same company that wanted to do a remaster of No One Lives Forever, but they couldn't get, because the rights are in like 8 different companies' hands right now. But I appreciate their enthusiasm. I don't think will get to do a remaster of Dark Forces.
Not with EA's exclusivity.
I do not believe so.
EA would have to come out and say, yeah, we'll publish it.
Yeah. Which obviously it wouldn't be a remake. It would just be, up-resing it and everything and making it run on current consoles. I don't know if I want to play Dark Forces again, John. And last but not least, I usually try to end on a higher note than this, but it was just how the things came out this week. So in Watch Dogs 2, you were able to hack into Ubisoft's actual headquarters,
yes,
and look at a game called Pioneer that was like a weird space game that they were actually apparently working on, and they are now no longer working on it.
Yeah, so it has seemingly been canceled.
Yep. That's according to Twitter. And with that, this podcast has gone on for long enough. John, everybody check John out over at Geek Bombast and all the places that you find your fine podcasts. And if you enjoyed this podcast, maybe share it out to somebody, like, subscribe, all that stuff. Mail@ragelight.com is the email address. Usually we answer some questions, but we've been going on for so goddamn long that there's no question except, when does this podcast end? And the answer is right now.
Right now?
Yes, right
now. Not then, but now.
Now. We're in now.
Okay, so now.
Now.